bad.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah.
So essentially, just in case you are not aware of this, Colleen Rooney accused Rebecca Vardy, or Rebecca Vardy's Instagram account anyway, of viewing her stories on Insta and then selling them onto The Sun. You've seen The Sun's mad scramble for, we're a fine newspaper. We're okay. Hey guys, it's okay. We did our due diligence. They've claimed that they contacted Rebecca Vardy for all three of the stories that went in, and sorry, Colleen Rooney and her representatives failed to get back to them. So they obviously naturally just run it anyway.
Right, is that what it is? Is that what they do?
Well, yeah, you just have.
What are the rules then?
So there's a right of reply.
Okay.
So if I wrote something, say I wanted to write something about you, something completely defamatory, something that you would really hurt you, embarrass you, anyway, whatever that could be.
Like you got something prepared.
No.
Okay.
Just get the list. Anyway, no. So yeah, if I did that, I'd have to go to you and say, well, look, have you got any comment on this? And if you go no comment, then I'd just run it anyway. And right at the end, I just go, Richard Lee declined to comment.
Really? Is that the rules?
Them's the rules.
Them's the rules. Interesting. Let's talk a little bit of sport as well. Obviously, lots in the papers about England today. They, of course, have their first match. I know there's a lot of, some issues in regards to Bulgaria. The Bulgarian FA aren't particularly happy with England because I think they've made along the lines of the fact that we've touched on that there may well be racist noises. There was previously, so it wasn't a case of us just creating this out of nothing, but they're not overly happy about this.
Well, no, but I mean, they can do one, can't they, really? The back of the mail's got Shut Up England on it. Bulgarians accuse FA of fixation with racism. So England were caught up in an explosive race row yesterday after Bulgarian football chiefs made an official complaint to UEFA amid fears of the racial abuse during Monday's clash in Sofia.
Yeah.
So they've kind of come out swinging. Gareth Southgate's side obviously facing the Czech Republic. Then they face Bulgaria. You wait for Euros 2020 qualifiers. But yeah, the Bulgarian FA is essentially just saying, oh, you're just focusing on the racism. Well, maybe if they focused on the racism a little bit, there'd be less of it.
Yeah. It would really help. Well, look, and this goes back to...
It would really help. It would be nice.
It would be so nice.
It would be lovely if the Bulgarian FA could just focus on their own race issues.
Well, this is it. It's not... There's no smoke without fire. Like, it's not like we're just... we're worried about this when there's no threat of it. There is a threat of it. There's actually a really interesting audio from Southgate on racism in this country, referencing the racist incident in Hartlepool a few weeks ago.
We don't look at other countries in a way that... we don't shine a mirror on our own. And what happened in Hartlepool a couple of weeks ago was probably worse than things I've seen in, or have heard about in many other countries in the world. So I think we've got to be very careful on how we cover everything.
Effectively making the point that we need to get everything in order here first, as well as focus on that. I mean, this is it, right? I mean, I'm reading the story today, an interesting story about Iran. Iran, for the first time, allowed women to enter the stadium. And they played against Cambodia.
In a special women's only zone.
Well, this was it. It's kind of like a huge step forward, and they've got their own zone, which is 100 feet away from any men, and 3,500 women were allowed to cram into this section of the stadium.
Right. I just don't get it.
I know.
I don't. So I was on the tube today, right?
Yeah.
And this amazing thing happened.
Go on.
This woman got on, right? And I could see her face and her legs and her arms, and she was sat there, and I didn't just aggressively approach her.
Oh, really?
Nothing happened.
Did you report her?
We didn't even talk to each other. We were just sat there. We both got off at Waterloo, and I imagine she's gone to work. I don't know, because I didn't stalk her.
Yeah.
So, it's just incredible, wasn't it?
Well, I'm glad that...
Because normally, you have to, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you've changed your ways. That's the first thing. Yeah. I mean, got you in a lot.
I just find it bizarre. Like, why? Oh, there's the women, naturally 100 feet away from all the men. What is it? Why?
Yeah, but, right. I suppose it is a step forward. That's the thing. But this is where we're all in different things. I want to say different stages in development, but it's not necessarily that, because I appreciate that everybody's got different views, different values, different beliefs. I get that. But this particular subject makes no sense to me. It doesn't. And I don't care what religion. I can't see how it makes sense. And I'd love for someone to explain to me why...
Why women can't watch football.
Yeah. Why? Why?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway,
It's
but
nuts, though, isn't it? It's nuts. Well, better give one of those countries a World Cup, Reg.
yeah, there you go. But this was like portrayed as a really positive story because it is a step forward. They have been allowed in. The fact that 3,500 went, they obviously want to watch it. They're interested.
Yeah.
And Iran put on a show.
Oh, good. Oh, really?
14-0.
Oh, good.
So they scraped past Cambodia 14-0. So really put a show on for the women. But I don't know. I just don't get it. There's a lot of stuff I kind of understand. We've all got religious beliefs, whatever.
Yeah.
That I cannot get my head around. Anyway, no doubt we'll touch more on that. Talking about the football last night, not a very good night for Scotland against a pretty average Russia team. They lost 4-0. Northern Ireland, on the other hand, a little bit more unlucky. They were 1-0 up until the latter stages, and 3 late Holland goals, Dutch goals, meant they lost 3-1, which was a shame because Northern Ireland doing brilliantly in their group. Of course, England are big news. They have their first of the 2 games tonight against the Czech Republic, which should be an interesting game. We're going to touch more so on the football because we haven't really touched on it all that much.
Yes, absolutely. Should be an exciting game tonight. If England can get through, then clearly it's just Bulgaria that they've got to get past as well. And it is such an exciting England outfit at the moment, isn't it? It looks as though you've got the likes of Tammy Abraham, Mason Mount. I'm excited to see how he does in England shirts. It's believed that he may well start the game, actually. I think just the predicted lineup. Should we just run through the predicted lineup?
Let's do it.
So you've got Pickford.
Yep.
Chilwell, Maguire, Keane, Trippier. Henderson, Rice, Mount. This is the Daily Mail's predicted lineup.
Yeah.
Sancho, Kane, Sterling.
Yeah, okay. So that front 3, which we would expect. Is it fair to say that?
I think this is, to be honest with you, this is looking like a more solid team by the week. The only area that I would question is Michael Keane. Not quite sure why Gareth Southgate keeps persisting with him at the back, especially after the way that he just basically gifted Kosovo a goal.
Who would you have instead?
You could have quite a few people, couldn't you?
You could, but I mean, I guess you look at the current squad. I'm trying to think who you'd have instead. To be honest, I think at the moment he's still slightly ahead of other candidates.
Is Joe Gomez fit now?
Gomez is fit. John, I mean, yeah, okay.
I like it. I think he's class.
Obviously, Stones is injured at the moment, I believe. I mean, look, I think the interesting one for me is that front 3. Technically, that front 4. Like, I really like the look of that. And you've got then the effectively 2 holding midfielders. Yeah. Certainly, Declan Rice is becoming more of that role.
He's an absolute animal.
Oh, he is, yeah. And you need a player like that in your team, someone that can break up play. And in fairness, he's decent on the ball. I still think there's a little bit more to come from him. He'll develop a little bit more. But no, I think it's more than good enough to win tonight, you would feel. And it's nice, actually, going into games like this, whereas previously, I don't think there was as much confidence, whereas I'd be shocked if we didn't win tonight.
Oh, yeah. I'd be seething, Rich.
You would, and no one likes it when you're seething. No. Scotland, they did lose 4-0. Manager Steve Clarke said they must make sure the Russia thumping is his team's lowest point.
No, we conceded a soft goal. The first goal is soft from a corner. Man on man, we have to do better. But from there, we quickly found our way out the game. Allowed the game to run away from us. It can be. Have to put it down to fragile confidence. The players seem to lose heart very quickly, which is unfortunate because we had done okay up until that point.
Yeah, a lot needs to change in Scotland at the moment. He's got a big job on his hands.
Yeah, massive amounts.
And in the football as well. He's got a big job on his hands. So talk to me about the Czech Republic. I know you've been doing your due diligence. You've been looking through their team and looking for star players.
Oh, massively. Well, really, the key man is the striker up front. He scored 4 goals in his last 4 games for his country. He's recovered from an ankle complaint now, and it's time to test England's defence. He's called Patrick Schick. Schick. You make me sick.
You have no idea if he's any good or not, do you? Absolutely no idea. But he is called Patrick, so we can read into... It's going to be one of these shows. We've only just started. We've got another 3 hours or so. Want to touch quickly as well on this Manchester United story, which is quite big today. Chevrolet. They're going to lose them as a sponsor.
Whoa.
Chevrolet, who have stated that they massively overpaid for their sponsorship.
That's funny, because I think most people normally massively overpay for a Chevrolet.
This is true. So, interestingly, they did this deal, I think it was back in, I'll say 2012, only kicked in 2014, 7-year deal, and essentially, of course, 2012, things were rosy. Sir Alex, still manager, loving life.
Yeah.
Since their sponsorship has kicked in, United have just been... But what is interesting is where we spoke about their figures for this year being fantastic, big profits, etc. It's not necessarily true because they're going to lose Chevrolet. Whether someone comes in at that level again is highly unlikely. So although things look very rosy now, you do wonder whether a year, 2, 3 years from now, things aren't quite so rosy for Man U.
It's something quite hilarious about the fact that now brands are like tripping over themselves to disassociate themselves in Manchester United. It's normally like when some kind of sex scandal comes out about an athlete and all its sponsors just go, "Oh no, no, we have to take the moral high ground," and it's just like that, isn't it? Like, it's just nuts, isn't it? Because Manchester United is still a global brand. I mean, they've just announced, of course, like a record profit. The share prices bizarrely are actually still holding up despite the abject misery that's taking place on the pitch.
Yeah,
it is a global brand. It's a good advertising platform.
Well, you think, is it though? I guess this is the question. Do you know what? We're going to talk about this in more detail because that is the question. Is United as powerful as it was back in 2012 when they did this deal? We're going to be talking business, lots more sport, and no doubt lots more Colleen. 6:45.
Love sport.
Can you save money on your car insurance? Chris did with a little help from a spokesmansaid.com. Getting real people, real savings.
I'm Chris from Leicestershire, a truck driver. I went on a spokesman's set, which was very straightforward and easy to use for an old git like myself, and saved over £300 on my car insurance.
Find quotes from over 100 leading insurance providers at a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident, and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country. Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
I told Melania that she draws her eyebrows on far too high. She looked so surprised.
Love sport.
That's for breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10. So it's this time in the show where ordinarily we used to have business every day, but after yesterday, I don't know if we do. Producer, do we? Oh.
It's business. It's business time.
I don't know if Chris Bailey's here, but we're going to try and do the business anyway.
We'll try. I mean, we tried yesterday, and of course, there was
we played that yesterday,
no
nothing
answer,
happened.
and it was a little bit embarrassing. Chris, are you there?
Good morning.
Oh, there he is. How's life?
Radically, I was actually doing business yesterday. Literally doing business.
Wow.
Not just. I know that's a radical concept. I know it's a bit like radio presenters doing radio presenting.
No,
we choose
I
not
wouldn't
to do
know
that.
anything about that.
That's not really for us, Chris. Tell you what.
Lay those accusations at my door, Chris.
Given that you were doing business, we will let you off this once. Chris, delighted you've joined us. Chris Bailey, of course, founder of financialorbit.com. So talk to us about the new £20 note.
Well, I did. Apparently, the £20 note, new one coming out, made of polymer, very nice, loads of new security doings on it. Nice new picture of the artist J.W.W. Turner lurking on there. Apparently, the £20 note is not only the most common in the UK, but apparently also, at least with the old one, the one with the most copies and sort of fraudulent issues of. So I'm happy though to sort of take the new £50 note if they want to sort of raise the utilisation usage of that. But yeah, new £20 note coming out soon. Look out for it.
Fantastic. It's about time. I mean, I enjoy the £5 note and the £10 note. So, no, good news. UK on track to avoid recession despite Brexit chaos.
Well, that's right. I mean, there were some stats out yesterday which indicate that the UK economy was getting a touch better, or at least not as bad as many people thought. But of course, the big news yesterday was this little chatette between Boris and the Irish Prime Minister, which actually got the pound pushing up strongly. If you suddenly decided to go on holiday today and buy your currency at the airport, you're going to get a few more euros or dollars for your pound. It had a best day in 7 months yesterday on, a little bit of Brexit progress hopes. So it all fits in, really, because unsurprisingly, the longer you just elongate the Brexit uncertainty, the more chance you've got UK economic malaise and problems. So it all fits together, basically. If you get the other side of Brexit, you get a better economy. Seems kind of a sensible thing to do, maybe. Just, radical idea.
Yeah, that does sound like it makes sense. In fact, we're going to be talking about Brexit, me and Patrick, because I know he's got some interesting information. Thomas Cook directed to be questioned by MPs over collapse.
That's right. Next week is the big showdown in Parliamentary Committee about RIPE 2. Thomas Cook obviously collapsed a couple of weeks ago. Directors, not just the current set of management, but the ones from a few years back as well, talking about, or at least they'll be trying to convince everybody they weren't responsible for the fact that the company had too much debt, had the wrong strategy. The directors probably undoubtedly took too much money out of it, and related. It was clearly all Brexit's fault and the fact that we had a hot summer.
Great stuff, Chris, as always. Well, it's great to have you back. We missed you.
Well, I'm pleased to be. I'm now going to take 2 days off. It's called the weekend.
Okay.
Bit of a radical concept, I know, but
you're on thin ice, Chris.
we'll try. I'm working hard. Business,
Good man. We'll speak again on Monday, I hope. As always, Chris Bailey, fantastic founder of financialorbit.com. No, I wanted to talk to you about Brexit because I hear we might have a deal, or we might be getting closer to a deal. No.
Well, it depends. So Boris Johnson met up in the Wirral, in the woods. Yes, seriously. Met up in the woods with the Irish president yesterday, Leo Varadkar. And, they released a joint statement which appeared to suggest that they might be slowly edging towards something. No, it is quite unusual because the Irish Taoiseach has been scathing, really, of Boris Johnson in the past, and has been very, very cosy with our European friends, as you would expect. And, yesterday, to release a joint statement and go walking in the woods together around the Wirral was certainly a big step for international relations, which is bizarre, really, because the Irish Taoiseach used to mean absolutely nothing to us. And now it's quite necessary.
It's everything.
Yeah, basically. It's like, when you go back to an ex that you split up with about 5 years ago. It's that kind of vibe to it.
Yeah.
So, oh gosh, I've tried everything else.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to go back to you. So that's where we are.
Oh, fair enough. So, reading between the lines, Brexit is pretty much sorted. That is the end of that chapter.
That's it. So everyone can just breathe easy. That's the last time you will ever hear the word Brexit.
Thank goodness. It has been... I'll put it to the back of my mind, finally. Let's talk a little bit more sport. So, of course, lots going on in the world of sport today. Touching on the internationals, of course, England are playing tonight. They've got the Czech Republic away. Near enough there, you feel, in terms of qualification. A win tonight, and you'd think that they are pretty much there. We're talking about the anticipated lineup. This was in the Sun, I believe, or was this in the Daily Mail?
This is the Mail, yeah. But, I mean, look, it's the likely lineup. England play a 4-2-1-2-1. 2-3-1. 1-8. So Pickford, Chilwell, Maguire, Keane, Trippier, Rice, Henderson, Mount, Sancho, Kane, Sterling. And for the first time, really, well, not the first time, that's not true. For the first consistent period of time, we now have an England team that I think, when the England team used to line up and then you'd look at your opposition, and even if we were playing someone like Greece, whose best player for a period of time was Georgios Samaras, do you remember him?
Yeah.
You'd look at that lineup and go, oh gosh, he's a threat, isn't he? And he was like playing on the wing for Celtic. Like now we look at it and it's our team that's terrifying.
Yeah. Is there anyone else that's not in that lineup that would maybe expect to be in that lineup?
Well, I imagine Jesse Lingard's gutted.
Yeah, well, I mean...
That's a joke, by the way,
Rich.
Rich.
No.
He's terrible.
He's not terrible, is he? He's obviously done very well, and I know to be omitted from this squad...
I honestly don't know if he'd get in my five-a-side
the fact that he's not in the squad, the fact that Dele Alli's not in the squad is actually, for me, quite a big positive, and in the nicest possible way, in that Gareth Southgate's very much about the here and now. If someone's doing it in this moment, it doesn't matter what your reputation is. I quite like that. I really do.
Yeah, it just seems to go off very much on current form. I had wondered if Tammy Abraham would get a start, but there we go. So England are unbeaten in their last 7 matches with the Czech Republic or Czechoslovakia, winning 5 and drawing 2.
The other one is, of course, Tomori, who's had a brilliant start to the season. It is interesting, though, when you've only played a certain number of games in the Premier League, at what point are you ready for your first England game? Like, does it matter? If you have 3 or 4 brilliant games in the Premier League, is that enough then to be thrown into the international stage?
Well, I suppose if Gareth Southgate subscribes to the view that if somebody is in form, then all you need to do is essentially plonk them on a football pitch and they'll play well for you. Then that's what he's doing, isn't it? And you can see a logic in that, because this was the thing. It was the Wayne Rooney argument, was it? That when Wayne Rooney looked like he'd forgotten how to play the game and that he was always running through treacle and uphill, we kept getting picked. And it was that kind of loyalty ticket, that loyalty free pass into the England team. And yeah, all right, I get it. He was our record goal scorer and that's fantastic. But there was a time when he was just completely over the hill. We're trying to crowbar him in. Can you play defensive midfield? No, he's an old, slow striker now. Just let him go out to pasture. Whereas now, with Gareth Southgate, it doesn't seem to matter who you are. If you're in form, you're in the team. And if you're not, you're out.
Wayne Rooney moves on nicely to Colleen.
Well, he didn't move on nicely, does he? He kind of waddles on nicely.
Right, moves us on nicely to Colleen.
Oh, got you, yeah.
Of course, who is very much front pages. Her and Rebecca Vardy, which we will be touching on more today because it is still big news. It's all over the front page of The Sun. A double page spread, page 4 and 5 as well. They've even concocted a scoreline as to Team Vardy and Team Rooney. Or Team Colleen and Team Becca.
Yeah.
I believe that Colleen is winning.
Massively so, yeah. Quarrel and Vardy. Hey.
Clever.
Thank you. We're all week. Literally am, actually. Anyway, so, yeah, Team Colleen against Team Becky. So Danielle Lloyd has come out and stood up for Colleen, saying that she's had similar issues with Rebecca Vardy. Interesting. Lizzie Cundy, who was, of course, on Love Sport Drive yesterday, said, who knew that Colleen was being Columbo? Thank you very much, Lizzie. Chantal Heskey, by the way. Did you know that was a thing?
No.
I didn't either.
No, but she's come out and she's also backed Colleen.
Chantal Heskey. Anyway, I totally get where Colleen is coming from.
I believe we can hear from Danielle Lloyd on this matter.
I think she did it. Sadly, I really do. And I think it's a shame because she probably never thought that she was going to get caught out. But obviously not the money. I think it's the press issue. I think she thought maybe if she was feeding the press stories, she would maybe get more headlines for herself. I honestly don't know.
Well, there you go. She thinks she did it?
Well, if Danielle Lloyd thinks she did it, I'd like to see. Apparently, they actually raft Danielle Lloyd in now as part of our counter-terrorism operations.
Yeah.
She's working actually secretly and has been for a while now in MI5.
Got a sense for these things.
She has. Yeah. And actually, this is what Danielle Lloyd had to say when basically she was just shown a lineup of some of the most high profile criminals in the UK. She'd never met any of them before. There's no DNA evidence whatsoever. There was nothing to go off, and the police were at a dead end. And then Danielle Lloyd steps in and says,
I think she did it.
There you go. You
Simple.
see, and it's that, and that is that.
Yeah. 3 minutes to 7.
This is Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
When looking for the best possible deal for his car insurance, Jim went on a spokesmansaid.com and saved hundreds.
I'm Jim. I'm a radio presenter based in Glasgow. I couldn't believe how expensive the car insurance for our Citroen C4 Picasso was going to be from my existing insurer. I went on a Spokesman Said and saved an incredible £600. Just amazing.
Find quotes from over 100 leading insurance providers at a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country. If you've ever had to get out of your car on the side of a motorway, you'll know how it feels. Just imagine what it's like to be working on a motorway. So please, drive carefully, follow the signs, stick to the speed limit, stay in the correct lane, and keep a safe distance from the car in front. People working on our roads are making them safe for all of us. Keep the roads safe for them. Highways England, connecting the country.
That's for breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. We've got a big show lined up for you. Lots to come in the next hour. We're going to be talking to Carl and Shannon Green, England rugby fans who flew to Tokyo yesterday for their honeymoon. Had tickets for the England game, but what happened? It was typhooned off.
Classic.
On that note, Eddie Jones has no sympathy for Scotland, by the way. The fact that their game might be typhooned off on Sunday. Basically saying, should have done better in your game so far, so you're already qualified, like we did. Essentially what he said.
Well, in a way, he's not wrong, but also the Scots can't understand it, because for them, they look outside and it's just summer.
Yeah.
You know? And that's the thing as well, the trail of destruction that the typhoon leaves in its wake is, for the Scots, normal.
They're out there, shorts and T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway, we're going to be discussing that in more depth. Also, we speak to James Richard, Football League expert. We'll speak to him later. As always, you can get in touch. 0208 70 20 558 on WhatsApp, at Love Sport Radio on the socials, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We are on YouTube as well. Feel free to tune in and you can see our happy little faces. 7 o'clock.
On digital radio, online, mobile, and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 7, Brexit Secretary Stephen Barclay will meet the EU's top negotiator Michel Barnier in Brussels this morning. Yesterday, talks between the Prime Minister and his Irish counterpart ended on a positive note. They agreed they can see a pathway to a possible deal. Our chief political correspondent John Craig has been looking at what that might mean.
According to the Irish Times newspaper, the British side have made concessions on customs. Now, does that mean perhaps some sort of revival for the Irish backstop, perhaps a time limit or something like that, or even a customs border in the Irish Sea?
The US president says he's optimistic he'll be able to work something out in the case of a fatal car crash in Northamptonshire. The suspect, Anne Sakoulas, left the country claiming diplomatic immunity in August. An explosion has hit an Iranian oil tanker off the coast of Saudi Arabia. Media in Iran say the crew are safe, but that oil is pouring into the Red Sea. A study's found almost a fifth of girls in the UK have missed school or work in the last year due to worries about how they look. Plan International says body image pressure has led to 14 to 21-year-olds not fully participating in society. Amelie has skipped school and says it's a generational problem.
We're on our phones constantly and we're looking at these people that have been photoshopped or are older than us, so they have developed more. So the standards of beauty, I would say, are a lot higher.
In football, Northern Ireland conceded twice in injury time in their Euro 2020 qualifier to lose 3-1 to the Netherlands. Elsewhere, Scotland were thrashed 4-0 by Russia and Wales drew 1-1 away to Slovakia. And qualifying for F1's Japanese Grand Prix has been postponed until Sunday. They've been forced to scrap all track activity tomorrow because of the expected impact of a super typhoon. That's the latest. I'm Kat Suave.
This is Love Sport.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile, and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Morning, Love Sport Breakfast, Love Sport Radio. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. Let's touch on a few of those top stories this morning. Of course, Colleen and Rebecca Vardy are in the news. Once again, we'll be talking about that in the coming hour. Bulgaria fuming at England fears of racist chanting. Eddie Jones has no sympathy for Scotland's situation. Northern Ireland and Scotland suffer defeat. And Man United to lose their Chevrolet sponsor worth £450 million. You are with me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. Let's touch on that story. The Bulgarian FA aren't particularly happy with England right now. I believe they wrote a letter to England to let them know of their disappointment of the suggestion that there might be racism in the upcoming fixture.
Well, yeah, I mean, so Gareth Southgate has tried to just brush this under the carpet Gareth Southgate's basically like the most English man, isn't he?
Amazing.
You just know he's just got like a flagpole on his front lawn. You know, he just every time he goes abroad, he demands to know where the nearest roast dinner is. And he's just one of these people that you can see just desperately tries to swerve conflict at all costs. And so the Bulgarian FA have accused England of stoking up tensions. This is ahead of England players going over there playing them, and in the backdrop of various racist issues involving Bulgaria. So Bulgaria were fined £35,000 after some England players were racially abused at Wembley. It's not the first time that's happened to Bulgaria. In fact, it's quite commonplace. So Borislav Mikhailov, which is easy for me to say, the president of the Bulgarian FA. It's funny actually because his name sounds a little bit like a swear word. Mikhailov. I just say that when I'm angry. Anyway, he said in his letter, I strongly suggest that the UEFA administration take measures against the build-up of unnecessary tension in the weeks devoted to equality and the celebration of football. I'm convinced that you will also agree that such attacks are tendentious, that's a big word, and are consistent attempts to disrupt the atmosphere before this football game. Well, it's not, is it, though, Borislav, if I can call you Borislav? It is just because your fans keep being racist.
You can call him that because that's his name.
Well, yeah, but it's his first name. But Mr. Mihailov sounds like some kind of cartoon character.
This is
I'm
true.
just nipping around Mr. Mihailov's with his magic potion. So yeah.
Let's hear from Gareth Southgate on the issue, sweeping the issue under the carpet like a true Englishman.
We are not trying to create a situation at all. Far from it. We're all hoping that over the next 72 hours we're just talking about 2 football matches.
Yes, Gareth Southgate's the type of guy that, you go to a restaurant and a meal will come and you'll take one bite. Oh, no. No. It's not what I ordered. That's not medium rare, is it? It's not medium rare. Waiter comes over. Is everything right, sir? Excellent, thank you. Honestly,
Delicious.
So good. One of the best things I've ever eaten. Cooked to perfection.
Then gets home and gives it a 1-star rating on TripAdvisor.
Angry review. It's tough as old boots.
There are some interesting quotes from the England manager about racism in this country. And Southgate concluded by asserting England are prepared for anything.
We don't look at other countries in a way that we don't shine a mirror on our own. And what happened in Hartlepool a couple of weeks ago was probably worse than things I've seen in, or have heard about in many other countries in the world. So I think we've got to be very careful on how we cover everything. We're 100% united on how we see things. As I say, I want the players to be able to concentrate on the football. I would be surprised if there's ever been a team that's as well prepared over the last 2 years for anything as our team. And I think the players also at the same time have the right to have a voice and speak their mind openly. And I encourage them to do that because we have a chance to make a difference on a very important topic as well. But my priority is creating the environment that they feel going into any match, they can focus on football and be judged on that.
I'm a little bit disappointed in Gareth there because, of course, we know what happens in Hartlepool stays in Hartlepool. So, Patrick?
Yeah, okay. So Gareth Southgate, there being quite strong, clearly on on what he thinks needs to happen. I get what he's doing there in saying that we need to hold a mirror up to ourselves, and of course we do. We absolutely do, because there are still issues here. It's not as if we don't have racists here, and it's not as if those racists don't sometimes go to football matches and shout at players. So yeah, fair play. But the fact is, it's absolutely terrible in Bulgaria. Like, their fans just don't think anything whatsoever of making monkey chants or rude and offensive language and gestures, and it happens with a degree of regularity. And in the time it's taken Borislav Mikhailov, the president of the Bulgarian FA, to write this letter, I suggest that maybe he could have written to all of the Bulgarian fans, just telling them not to be a racist.
Well, look, here's one for you, because you say that, and you touched it there, and it's not about comparisons. I get that, and we're certainly far from perfect. All the stuff that's been going on recently, we're far from perfect. But we're talking about Iran. Iran yesterday, for the first time, invited women to a game of football, and it's a big thing. We've seen the picture on the screen. They absolutely loved it, by the way. But they were put in their own section, 100 feet from all men. Ridiculous. But so they've progressed to that point. Now, look, we're far from where we need to be, but the fact that we do talk about it as much as we do, the awareness, which is the big thing, right? People are aware. It's not like anybody now can claim ignorance over this subject. They can't say something, I didn't know. Like, that might have been the excuse 10 years ago. It's not anymore. So we're getting there, surely.
Yeah.
Is that a fair comment?
I think so. I mean, look, there are still obviously issues there, but I think this is part of it. And I think one of the similar things as well, when people go on about how terrible Boris Johnson is. And I think, okay, all right, well, there is Donald Trump. Is Boris better than that? Yeah. Would I rather have Boris than Putin? Yeah, probably. Would I rather have Boris than any Middle Eastern leader? Yeah, I would. What about the African kind of cohort? Yeah, probably. And then when you actually think about it, right? Yeah, all right, he's a buffoon, but comparatively to the rest of the world, he's not that bad. And that's kind of one of the things with this. It's just there are still issues here and still needs stamping out. But I think when you look around at everywhere else in the world, and frankly most of the nations that England have to travel to play the game, it's always worse over there.
Well, look, going to move on a bit from the racism stories that no doubt will be in the headlines the next few days, certainly until we play Bulgaria. Hopefully, goes that hitch, and everything's fine.
But
and actually, it's something we can
if
put.
If it doesn't, just quickly, sorry, but if it doesn't, there's been more build-up to a game like this than I've ever seen, in terms of, we were speaking about the fact that there was definitely going to be racism at this game about 3 weeks ago, and Gareth Southgate's players have been briefed on it. If despite all of this kind of publicity about it, we go there and the Bulgarian fans are still racist towards us, surely they should just never be allowed to play international football. You clearly can't stop the Bulgarians being racist if after all this they still are.
Well, that's what I quite like about. I guess the point is, though, is it actually just here or is it over there as well? Do they know that we're having all these conversations? For instance, we're making a big thing of it over here. It's in all the papers every single day. Now, providing that's being replicated over there, then again it comes back to awareness, because ignorance can't be an excuse, and it might still be an excuse. I don't know. When it happened, certainly in Bulgaria, when it happened previously, perhaps that is still an excuse, that's just the way it's always been over there. Well, it can't be going forward. So as long as there is that awareness over there too, then again, hopefully we'll have a positive experience in Bulgaria, and it's something that, if not perfect, at least we can take a step forward from where we were previously.
Just as somebody who has been to Bulgaria, I would say the chances of having a positive experience are very slim.
Slim to none.
Yeah.
Let's move on to another subject, another serious subject. Of course, Rebecca Vardy and Colleen Rooney are having a huge row at the moment. Let's hear from Danielle Lloyd on what she thinks as to whether Rebecca Vardy did it or not.
I wasn't as shocked.
You weren't surprised?
No.
Why?
Because I've had run-ins with Rebecca before over similar things, so I wasn't as shocked. Obviously, like everybody else, you read it and you are like, oh my gosh. But I wasn't as shocked as seeing who it actually allegedly was.
That's the lovely Danielle Lloyd there.
Did she used to go out with Gary Lineker?
I don't know if she went out with Gary Lineker. No, she was with Jamie O'Hara. Obviously, she married. And then anyway, no, she's of course she dated Teddy Sheringham initially, and then she married Jamie O'Hara, and I think there was potentially other boyfriends she had. So Rebecca Lloyd, it sounds like there are some issues between her and Rebecca Vardy. So is this just a nice case for her now to kind of stick the oar in a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. I think that she's obviously taken sides, hasn't she? So just in case you've managed to miss this one, Colleen Rooney outed Rebecca Vardy's Instagram account as being the account that has been informing The Sun of news articles about her, but she'd made stuff up. So she'd made up that her basement had flooded in her house, that she was going to have a TV comeback, and weirdly, that she was going to Mexico to try and artificially alter the gender of her unborn baby. Which is niche, isn't
brilliant.
it?
Which is brilliant.
It's like, right, okay, what will they believe? What will take minimal effort?
This is where I think there has to be more than just like Colleen
there's no way
involved.
she's come up
Because
with that.
this is it. If Colleen and Wayne are sat round and they're brainstorming, right? Come on, Wayne, we're going to try and catch them out. Okay, let's think of a story that we can get in the Sun. I don't believe that Wayne's come up with that story. I just don't. And I think Wayne Rooney's fantastic. I love Wayne Rooney, but I don't believe he's come up with that story.
I think that explains some of the stories that have come out about Wayne Rooney in the past, because we all thought that he was letting himself down badly, but it turns out he just got the wrong end of the stick about that meeting that he had with Colleen. He was just trying to get news stories in the papers.
There you go.
And that's what it is. He was doing it for his wife. Doing this for you, Colleen.
Well, Rebecca Vardy said about Danielle Lloyd that Danielle begged Rebecca to find her a famous footballer to marry. I don't know what you make of that.
Well, it's not a shock, is it?
No.
Also, she did.
Well, there you go.
But that's it, isn't it? Shock as wannabe wag wants to be a wag.
I thought that might have really hit you for six, but it didn't.
But
really,
this
did
is
it?
the thing where this is what I was saying, which is what I really hope happens now, which is that it just opens a monumental can of wriggling worms where wags are just tripping over each other to be awful, and then maybe we have some kind of like Hunger Games style show where the wags have all got to come and just see who can be the most defamatory about the other one.
7:15.
I'd never be a vegetarian. I think that is a huge mistake. Mistake. So clever, so funny.
This is Love Sport. The Novotel London Blackfriars, the official hotel partner of Love Sport. Located just minutes away from the city and London's famous South Bank. You can kick back and taste the flavours of the world at the Jamboree Bar and Grill and enjoy all the sights of London in style. The Novotel London Blackfriars.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Oh, it's okay. Let's face it, when your kids are ill, you'd do anything to help them feel better. But remember, antibiotics aren't always needed. You might not realise it, but taking antibiotics when you don't need them puts you and your family at risk of a longer and more severe illness. Help keep your family well. Always take your doctor's advice on antibiotics. Search NHS antibiotics. All better.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident. And save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country. Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. We're here with you all the way until 10 a.m. Lots to come in the show. We've got we're going to speak to a couple of really interesting people very shortly because, of course, typhoons in Japan have affected the Rugby World Cup in a big way, in particular the England versus France game, which was called off. We should spare a thought for the people that were due to go to that game. And
Yes,
actually,
we
there's a
should.
story in the papers today, and we're going to ask actually this couple that we're about to speak to, Carl and Shannon Green, rugby fans, England rugby fans, who flew to Tokyo yesterday for their honeymoon to watch this game. But I know there's a story in the paper where frustration for fans in that they're not actually going to get their refund for over a month, which is poor, really, isn't it? Really, you'd think You think it would be a lot quicker than that?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's pretty. They take your money quick enough, don't they? That's what I've always thought that about things like with the council, right? When you just ring up and go, oh, sorry, you've accidentally taken treble the amount of council tax you're supposed to. Oh, we're very sorry, sir. We're very sorry. That money will be back with you within a couple of months. What?
Yeah.
No, just do the reverse of what you've just
Do it
done.
right now.
Yeah, do it right now.
Yeah. Well, delighted to say, as I say, we've got Carl and Shannon Green, England rugby fans who flew to Tokyo yesterday for their honeymoon to watch the game, which was typhooned off. Morning, Carl and Shannon.
Hello there, how are you?
Morning. Yeah, morning. We hope, all good here. Hope you're well too. So, talk to us. We're just talking. I saw the story in the papers this morning that refunds for this game, this is another part to it. First and foremost, the disappointment, I'm sure, of not being able to see the game, but also the fact that, am I right in thinking that refunds for the game aren't going to be given for some time?
Well, we actually got fairly lucky, to be honest, because we were so adamant that we wanted this game, we brought the tickets through a different resale site instead of direct from World Rugby. So they've actually been quite helpful in getting us our money back. But I know I've heard stories since we've been here that people are struggling to get their money back for tickets and stuff like that.
So what's the weather actually like there at the minute? Is it typhooning as we speak?
No, we landed at about 10 a.m. local time, and to be honest, the weather is pretty bad. The rain is pretty awful, but it isn't expected to get really bad until tomorrow. The winds and stuff are meant to really pick up tomorrow, and we've been advised to sort of stay in our hotel room tomorrow and not venture out at all, which obviously is not ideal on your honeymoon, but there we go.
In fact, on that note, by the way, congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Kind of forgot
Sorry,
about
we just skirted over
that. Obviously,
I'm not jealous.
No. With it being, honeymoon, I guess this was going to be a big part of the honeymoon. I take you got other plans, but I'm sure this was a huge part of
We have got other plans. We actually got married in end of May, and this was a delayed sort of honeymoon because we were both. All of our plans were around going to watch England play in the World Cup. So to wake up to the news on Thursday morning that we were now getting on the plane to come here and the game was cancelled and stuff, it was horrible. But we're flying out. We're here for 4 days, so hopefully we will get a chance to explore later on in the week, and then we fly out to New Zealand after here. But obviously it's extremely disappointing because we spent an absolute fortune on accommodation and tickets. It's not just the price of the tickets, it's the accommodation, spending money while we're out here. It's really not ideal, but we obviously we know that the fans and the safety in that comes first, but it doesn't really sound like they had any backup plan in place or anything at all, really.
How much did you end up spending then, Shannon? Did you spend a huge amount of money to get out there?
Yeah, we spent at least 2,500, if not more, just because we wanted to secure the tickets, accommodation, everything. So we kind of based the whole honeymoon around this. Yeah, we were. Well, Carl nearly didn't get on the plane on Thursday morning.
Oh no! Come on, we're going on honeymoon. I don't want to go.
I was throwing my toys out the fan.
So go on, wait, talk us through this because I've just had a message on air from my missus reminding me of all of the chores I need to do around the house this weekend. Right, the idea that we could get to the steps of a plane on the way to our honeymoon, and that I would be throwing my toys out the pram, she would kill me. So what was going on? Talk to me about it.
We stayed at Heathrow on the Wednesday, the night before. We got dropped off, and obviously the reports were coming through, weren't they, Shannon?
Yeah.
And we were glued to our phones. I didn't really sleep much, and it was funny because we had to get up at 4 to get over to Heathrow. And the news conference from World Rugby was at 4 o'clock, so it was as we were getting ready that the news came through.
That's what happened. Cole wasn't getting ready. Cole was not getting ready.
I love that. Just there with his England rugby shirt on, just like, no, I'm not going, Shannon.
I was adamant. I was going to the desk asking for a direct flight to New Zealand instead. I was furious. I was not in a good place, but I've calmed down a bit now. So.
Oh well, there we go. Do you reckon that we've got a chance? I'm just assuming that at some point all of the typhoons stop. Do you reckon that we've got a chance of winning this World Cup?
100 million %, yeah.
If
anything, it's probably going to do them some good because they'll have an extra layoff going into the Australia game. But well, if Australia win, but it's likely they will. But
so what
I did say to Shan, can we redirect our flights when we're halfway through New Zealand if England get to the final to make up for the fact that we didn't get to watch them? So
too right. Yeah. So what's next on the agenda then in the honeymoon?
To be honest, we're actually going to go out in a minute. We're going to go explore in a minute. Have a little walk around in Yokohama because it looks lovely, but well, apart from the weather anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, as long as we take an umbrella, we're going to go try and find something to eat in a minute, and just try and enjoy it best we can while we're here. Really.
Fantastic. Well, look, Carl, Shannon, really appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, thank you very much.
Happy honeymoon.
And happy honeymoon indeed. That's Carl and Shannon Green there, England rugby fans who flew to Tokyo yesterday for their honeymoon. Of course, the game was called
I
off.
love that. This image of Carl just sat there in the hotel room at Heathrow Airport. The plane's just about to take off. He's still not ready. He's just wearing his boxer shorts and England rugby shirt, just checking the weather forecast, just crying. And Shannon, come on, Carl!
No!
Come on, Carl!
Don't want to go.
This is magnificent.
Oh dear. Well, yeah.
You can imagine him as well, just really, really being so passive aggressive for the flight. You know, like, do you want some nuts, Carl? You don't know me at all, Shannon. I don't like nuts.
Allergic to nuts, mate. No, you're not, Carl.
Yeah.
No, you're
Well,
not.
I might be.
On a serious one, obviously, well, we'll try and bring it back to semi-serious. In fact, I'll tell you what, let's hear from Eddie Jones because he feels for the fans.
Yeah, I've just been walking around the streets and there's a lot of people with disappointed faces, and it's difficult for them because it was obviously going to be a special occasion and we feel for them.
So he's walking around, there's a lot of people with disappointed faces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now he knows how I feel when I walk into China White.
No, but look, on a serious one, he actually did have some stuff to say in regards to Scotland. This was in the papers, and the fact that Scotland, they've got their game on Sunday, which should be on, but of course it's a crucial game for Scotland, but effectively along the lines of, well, they should have done a little bit better to this point was the message. Scotland, from what I understand, are actually potentially suing the rugby, whatever it is, because...
No, they got it wrong. So what the Scots are suing by mistake is Typhoo, the tea company, because they just decided, well, the lawyer left the N off, and that is going to be, frankly, a lawsuit that they just haven't got a chance.
Indeed. Well, look, we're going to be touching on that more shortly. Lots to come as well. Also, want to talk about New Zealand, of course.
Sorry, just out of interest, you can't sue World Rugby because there's a typhoon.
Well, in some ways, the fact that
it's the largest tropical storm of the summer.
Right, but why would you have a tournament there?
Well, yeah, but I mean, but just where does this go? Because I mean, so are we going to sue FIFA for all of it?
Well, no, but ordinarily, although, okay, we could talk about Qatar, but ordinarily they host the World Cup, at least where it's like habitable for that period of time.
Yeah, I mean, there was the whole,
It's not like this is a typhoon out of nowhere, a freak typhoon in Japan. No, this happens this time of year in Japan.
Yeah, no, it is. It is typhoon season.
Yes, it is.
That's the time of year it is. It's like when my tube got cancelled because there were leaves on the track.
Yeah.
Well, it was just patently wasn't true.
Yeah.
I was at the track.
Yeah.
And I rung the guy up. Oh, it's that time of year when the leaves start to fall. What do you reckon their train operator? Oh, it's that time of the year when this big cloud of death hovers over us and just pummels us into oblivion for about a month.
27 minutes past 7.
Love sport.
This is Lionel, another very happy person who saved themselves money at a spokesmansaid.com.
Hi, I'm Lionel from Peacehaven. I took note of what the spokesman said and I saved £484 per year on my energy, and I recommend everybody does the same.
A spokesmansaid.com. Getting real people, real savings. Compare, switch and save with a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country. If you've ever had to get out of your car on the side of a motorway, you'll know how it feels. Just imagine what it's like to be working on a motorway. So please, drive carefully, follow the signs, stick to the speed limit, stay in the correct lane, and keep a safe distance from the car in front. People working on our roads are making them safe for all of us. Keep the roads safe for them. Highways England, connecting the country.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys, here with you until 10 a.m. Just to touch on some of the top stories this morning, in case you've missed them. Of course, there is more fallout from the Colleen Rebecca Vardy scuffle, which no doubt we'll be talking about in more detail. Bulgaria fuming at England fears of racist chanting. Eddie Jones has no sympathy for Scotland's situation. Scotland may potentially sue if their game is called off. We'll be touching on that shortly. Northern Ireland and Scotland both thrashed in the football. In fact, no, that's unfair. Northern Ireland weren't thrashed. They were very good, actually. 2 late goals against Holland cost them, unfortunately. And Man United to lose the Chevrolet sponsor worth $450 million. Chevrolet claim they overpaid, which, in fairness, since they've been sponsor, it's probably fair.
Hang on a second. Have you ever been in a Chevrolet?
I've never owned a Chevrolet.
Exactly.
No.
A Chevrolet should count their lucky stars. Does anyone know anyone who owns a Chevrolet?
A Chevy.
A Chevy.
Well, they're big in the States. No one drives them in the UK. Yeah, I don't. It's a strange one that they've. I don't know whether they're trying to break the
Cake
UK
for
market.
breakfast is big in the States, Rich.
Yeah, they have some odd breakfast choices.
Yeah, they do.
Waffles. They love a waffle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just because they're not right about everything.
Yeah. Kieran joins us for the first time this morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning. How are we?
Oh, remarkably well. It's Friday. It is Friday. I went to a lovely Motown meal, 3-course meal in Embankment yesterday, so I am good.
Wait. So what? Talk me through how does a meal become Motown?
Well, it was really odd actually. So they had superb surround sound system and a live band playing Motown. And it was pumping out at volume too loud for radio.
Right.
And then soup arrived.
Wow.
And it was you had to eat your soup surrounded by, ear-deafening Motown. It was very odd.
But enjoyable.
No, I had a great time. I mean, once the wine flowed.
Sounds like a sensory experience.
Yeah, and I
certainly
guess
was.
One of the positives is you don't actually have to talk to the person you're with.
Well, yeah, I mean, but have you been stuck one in London as well, where it's pitch black and your waiters are blind?
I ate pigeon.
Well, you think you did.
Wow. Who knows? But yeah, no, that was actually, interestingly, the whole sensory experience, it was very, very good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do some sport.
Yeah, let's actually talk about something of interest to anyone else other than us. I feel like we're just having a conversation between us.
Well, that
the
break
show.
wasn't long enough, so I thought I'd carry on my conversation that we were having. But anyway, someone that you know a lot about, Rich, Matthew Longstaff is on the radar of England's under-21 coach, Aidy Boothroyd. Assistant Lee Carsley and Boothroyd have watched Longstaff, whose, of course, debut goal beat Man United last Sunday. Obviously, tonight's friendly in Slovenia and Tuesday's championship qualifier against Austria came too soon for Matty, but he's 19 and they'll continue to monitor him. And Boothroyd has said, we're certainly aware of him. One or two have been at it for a period of time and Matty's only just broken onto the scene. But, last week was brilliant. The whole crowd connected with it and, Boothroyd's really kind of likened Longstaff to under-21 call-up.
Well, I guess it'll be interesting because there is, I believe, the 21s games in November too. So there'll be a few fixtures between now and then. I guess it'll be interesting. Matty can keep his place in the team, and if he can, then who knows?
For someone like Aidy Boothroyd, I mean, how many good performances does it take to get into an under-21s team?
Not just 21s. We're talking about.
Apparently.
Well, we're talking.
Yeah, this is what I mean. He's scored a goal, and now Aidy Boothroyd's having to make comment on it.
But the thing is, I suppose the moment you make it into a Premier League team and you have a moment, you show that you can come onto the big stage in the way that he has and perform in the way that he has. This is the question. Tomori may well play a part in the game tonight for for England. Like,
Yeah.
he's only played a number of Premier League games. At what point is a player ready for an England call-up? And this is what I quite like about Southgate. I think Eddie Boothroyd is similar, that it is the power of recency rather than what we might have seen historically, which is that you build credit. And I think I quite like the power of recency.
But is there a little bit of a concern with this, both for Southgate and for Eddie Boothroyd? Because, look, if this had been the same philosophy with the same people going back years, Tom Cleverley would have probably got about 70 England caps at one point, and he's obviously, bang average. So, like, is there a chance that just by picking the people who are the most in form right now, you don't get a settled team? There's no cohesion.
Well,
and actually, you might be picking someone who, in a year's time, we're going to look at and go, "Gosh, can't believe they ever played for England." Like when Carlton Palmer used to play,
He did play.
Gosh,
no, but
staggering, wasn't it?
I would argue that you look at the England performances now, it proves that what he's doing is correct.
Yeah,
because I think every player knows they can't relax in their position in a good way. It's not that they're necessarily one bad game and you're out, because I don't think that's the case. Like, I think Dele Alli and Lingard in particular, it's not been one bad game. It's been a period of time.
Do you think that was a problem with, like, the golden generation? They just knew they'd play. Like, Ashley Cole, John Terry, Rio Ferdinand, they just knew they were going to play.
I think there was a couple of bits to it. I think, to an extent. I think it was maybe a little bit too comfortable. I think we could pretty much all name the lineup months in advance of a World Cup or a major championship. So I do think I played a part.
Starting with Danny Mills, of course, first name on any team sheet.
I think part of it as well was the cultural side of it. Like, I don't think tactically, again, credit to Southgate, 'cause he certainly surprised me on that level. I think the style of football he plays suits the majority of players. I think he plays players to suit the style of football as opposed to playing the best players and trying to shoehorn them into a team. I mean, look, we spoke so much about Gerrard and Lampard in the past and what have you. And I get it. It would be. Could you imagine having to leave out one of Gerrard or Lampard? I understand why managers didn't do it, but in hindsight, maybe that would have been a better decision. Actually go with the players that would have fit the system that the manager wanted to play.
Anyway, back to this current England team. How long do you reckon Harry Kane's been captain, roughly? I don't actually know. I'm just asking, like, conceptually in your mind, how long do you think? It doesn't feel that long.
18 months.
Yeah, it doesn't feel that long. Well, he's actually closing in on a record already.
What?
Kane has scored 19 of his 26 goals for England when he started the match as captain. And he's already closing in on becoming the Three Lions' all-time top-scoring skipper, right?
Okay.
No way.
So he's only one behind Brian Robson and Alan Shearer, who scored 20 goals as captain.
Yeah.
And Vivian Woodward is top with 23 goals. So he only needs 4 to equal Vivian Woodward's record.
Okay.
I mean, it's incredible.
Thing is, he has his goals to game ratio as captain is obviously very good. And I guess we look at the World Cup, the number of goals scored in the World Cup, the number of goals he does. He's pretty much a goal a game, isn't he? So I guess it's more the fact that he's got the number of goals and the number of games. I'm guessing the other names mentioned, Brian Robson in particular, would have taken him a lot more games to get his 20 goals.
Absolutely. And he's already overtaken David Beckham, who scored 16 goals as captain from right midfield. What's interesting about this England team, the highest number of caps in this starting 11 that we assume is going to play, well, it's tied, Henson, but Raheem Sterling is now the most experienced player in terms of caps for England with 53.
Yeah.
And he's really started to step up on the international stage. So there was so much made of him not scoring or scoring twice in about 40 games for England.
Yeah.
Well, he's scored 8 in his last 8, including 3 in the reverse fixture at home to the Czech Republic in a 5-0 win. Like I say, it came after he netted just twice in his first 45 appearances. It's so great to see Sterling. It's almost like an instant transformation on the international stage. He's really matured and stepped up, and like he's taking on that role now of being the kind of player that everyone looks to in England, not just Man City.
Yeah. No, I'd say that. It is incredible, the training. You think from the World Cup, where he did get so much abuse, really. And, I mean, there were times, I'll tell you what it was that feeling that, and I think because he was coming into a slightly different system, but it was the feeling that whenever he had a bit of time, the kind of classic Andy Cole one from back in the day, or Andrew Cole, sorry, the classic one from back in the day where he had so much time and you felt like he struggled when he had time. I could see certain similarities with Sterling. It felt like he was better when he was instinctive.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think he's improved that as well. I mean, the goal he scored against West Ham earlier in the season for me was a great example where the composure he's now showing in front of goal and has shown pretty much since the World Cup, I think has been huge.
But you feel like he can still improve. I mean, he's 24.
Oh, yeah.
So, there's still loads of development.
He'll peak at 27, I think, given his body type, given the way in which he plays. Pace and power is obviously a big part of what he is, but he has got certainly now the finishing prowess, great touch, and an intelligent player as well.
I was just about to say his positional sense, and you can see Guardiola's obviously coached that in him, because ever since Guardiola's gone there, it's kind of skyrocketed Sterling's career. I remember how much stick he got for leaving Liverpool, and it's always hard to leave Anfield and to leave that sort of fan base. And, everyone says, you move for the money. It's so not true. You can see, okay, under Klopp, Liverpool are doing great, but you can see Sterling just grabbed at the chance to work under someone like Guardiola, who's coached the best players in the world. And I think the fruits of his labour are really showing now.
Thoughts, Patrick?
Yeah, look, I think Raheem Sterling's, for my money, in the last England game, it was probably the best performance in England shirt that I've seen since Wayne Rooney tore it up at the Euros when he was about 16 years older.
What was he, 18 at Euro 2004, wasn't he? He was magnificent. But do you want to hear some tired football politics cliches from Martin Samuel?
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, why Corbyn got Ashley all wrong. This is Martin Samuel, direct quotes. If he was any good, Jeremy Corbyn would be where Jurgen Klopp is now. I don't really see that comparison, but okay. A whopping 8 points clear, his followers feverishly imagining the triumph ahead. In fact, Klopp has it a lot harder than Corbyn. He has to see off Manchester City, who are rather good. Corbyn, meanwhile, is up against politics' equivalent of Manchester United under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Right. Okay.
Do you like that, Patrick?
Yeah, it's interesting. I would like to see, actually, Prime Minister's Questions Time commentated on by one of the horse racing commentators. And just throughout, and just make it like a really rapid pacing. It would add a dynamic to it that I think currently is lacking.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, sport and politics crossovers need to happen a lot more. I mean, when Boris Johnson did that charity football match and rugby tackled that German. I still watch that video at least twice a week. I mean, it's so good.
It is fantastic. Have you seen the one? So have you seen the one where he tackles the Japanese boy and the German former finance minister? It's just sensational, isn't it?
Unbelievable.
Well done, Boris. Good stuff. I especially liked the child one as well, because you can see that actually Boris really didn't care.
Yeah.
But stay down. Tell your friends. That's right.
Martin Samuel.
Rule Britannia.
Okay. Martin Samuel's got some more. He said, the Conservatives used to be winners. They regard the big prizes as theirs by right, but they are a shambles. Senior players have quit. It's players like football players.
Got you,
yeah. What is left is mediocre, and the leaders have failed to deliver a coherent, workable strategy on a problem entirely of their making. Yet still, Corbyn trails them in the polls. It's a two-horse race. The other jockey is facing backwards, and he's coming third.
But they're in transition.
They're in transition. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's. Does this go on, by the way? Does this continue?
I'm sure it does.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. No. Gripping reading.
Yeah, it is. It is just quite a lazy way of just desperately crowbarring in politics into sport, isn't it? But there is some semblance of truth in that. But I did think, though, obviously there's that kind of other... Does he make the pun at some point that if Jeremy Corbyn was in charge of a football team, they'd all play on the left wing?
No.
Because that's very Martin Samuel.
No, he doesn't.
Is he not?
No.
I'm going to write in.
No, Labour's problem has always been convincing the public the budget is safe in their hands, and by failing to understand simple facts, such as wage-to-turnover ratio being a key financial health indicator in the assessment of football clubs. Corbyn came across as something of an economic ignoramus. It's probably why he isn't where Klopp is now.
Right.
Do you reckon Martin Samuel could just save everyone a lot of time by just writing, "Trust me, I know more than you," and leaving it at that?
That's it.
That's it. Just, okay, everybody listen to me now.
Like your classic article that just had one word.
Yeah, so on my last day at the Daily Express, I'd had enough, and for various reasons. And I decided that I was going to make stuff up.
Right.
So I wrote an article with the headline, "Is Wayne Rooney in the Illuminati?" And then the only word in there was no. And then that was it. That was the end of the article. It went online as well. It went up.
Is it a case for newspapers, and I'm saying this because I've just heard all that and it means nothing to me, I'll be honest. So is there a case for newspapers where sometimes they'll be asked to fill a certain column? Where it's like, look, we need 1,000 words from you. Can you just create something? And he would put something together like that?
Yeah, well, yeah, essentially. I mean,
some people enjoy this, don't get me wrong, and I know Kieran obviously did, and you did. So fair
Yeah.
enough. But, like, is there a case of that sometimes? Like, look, we need 1,000 words from you by the end of the day.
Yeah, there was a couple of times, especially in not so much in national newspapers, but in local journalism, it can be a battle. Especially if you're somewhere like I used to work for a weekly paper up in the Lake District where you're outnumbered by sheep 10-1. The average age was about 79, and if you had Tinder up there, the 4G was so bad that they'd married and had a kid by the time that you actually matched with them. So it was quite difficult at times to fill the pages. So I once did an entire double spread on a bloke who was refusing to turn his clock back because he wanted to live an hour in the future.
Wow.
Yeah. Colin.
I want to read it.
Yeah, it's available online.
I'll check it out.
Lovely stuff. In fairness to Martin Samuel, that wasn't his main story today.
Okay.
Really?
No England player is safe under Gareth the Gambler is what he's gone for. And I don't know whether you agree with this, but he says that choosing to pick players in form rather than basically making alliances and loyalties common to international football management is truly radical, apparently.
Radical.
Do you agree with that?
I mean, from what we've experienced previously, yeah, I guess so. I agree with it, though. I do. I think there's a balance. I don't think it's one where it's literally last game. If you had a poor game, then you're out. No, like Harry Kane will be in the team for a period of time, even if he's having a bad time with Spurs, in my opinion. So I think there is an element of loyalty, but I just think, where do you draw that line? I think with Dele Alli, with Lingard, I think he's made the right call. Whereas in previous times, would they still be in the squad for the fact that they've done it for England previously? That's the argument.
Yeah, potentially. But I think this is a bit of a leveller because no matter who you are, you know where you stand. Whereas under, frankly, any other England manager previously, you could have rightly accused them of favouritism, or you could have, thought, well, there's going to be certain injustices when this team sheet goes up because these people are just going to get picked no matter what. Whereas with this now, even Harry Kane knows the score. Yeah. Like he knows that if it does all go south for him, he is going to end up getting dropped because that's the rules in the Southgate team. So, I think it's quite a good thing that he's doing, personally.
Good stuff. Kieran, anything else of note?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to say that Jordan Henderson is Southgate's sole survivor from Malta 3 years ago, which was his first game in charge. That Henderson, Jordan Pickford, Harry Kane, Raheem Sterling and Harry Maguire, the only members of the team who opened up against Tunisia, likely to start against the Czech Republic, reveals Southgate to be a manager who brooks no compromise. And obviously he's jettisoned Marcus Rashford, who has made the most appearances under Southgate in his time in charge, for Jadon Sancho, and that's quite a bold move considering Sancho plays out in Dortmund and you always see Southgate at games. He just seems very switched on and I don't know, he's just got a very good way about him. And Martin Samuel says he's so popular with the England fan base because he's refused to be worried by the demands of ego from young or old. And he may need his friends one day, but his strategy suggests, says Martin Samuel, he's utterly unconcerned about having any. So fair play to Southgate. I think he's got it right, and he's learnt from previous England managers who've got it wrong.
Guys, sweepstake. Are you team Rebecca Vardy or team Colleen?
Oh, Colleen.
Rich?
I'm waiting for a bit more evidence.
Yeah? So you're just going to leave it?
I'm just going to sit on the fence for now.
Sit on the fence.
I'm going to wait for a little bit more evidence before... I've got a feeling there's another twist in this tale.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah.
This has got so much to run. So Colleen Rooney accusing Rebecca Vardy, obviously, of essentially spying on her Instagram account and sending it to the Sun newspaper. Rebecca Vardy is denied it all. She's also come out today and said that actually trying to argue with Colleen would be like trying to argue with a pigeon.
Which we're going to do very shortly. We're also going to be talking a bit of League One, League Two next.
Last time I was in the UK, I met national treasure Mary Berry's grandmother, Elderberry.
Giving your team the coverage they deserve. Love Sport Radio. Spokesmansaid.com is a leading price comparison website that allows you to compare every energy tariff on the market in seconds. We have more deals than any other comparison website offering energy prices, and our impartial independent switching service is free of charge. Nearly 50% of UK households have switched bills, and there are hundreds to be saved. Visit spokesmansaid.com, as recommended in The Guardian, The Times and The Sun. Spokesmansaid.com.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it...
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel and oil. Highways England, connecting the country. Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
This is Love Sport.
Lots for breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10. We're going to be speaking to James Richard, Football League expert and part of the D3, D4 podcast, talking about League One and League Two. We're going to be doing that very shortly because, of course, there is a full set of League One, League Two fixtures this weekend despite the international break. We're going to be talking, also we're going to be discussing the Colleen and Rebecca Vardy spat in a little bit more detail. So Rebecca Vardy did make it clear that trying to discuss this with Colleen is like, what? Speaking to a pigeon?
She said, so this has actually happened, ladies and gents, it's happened. So Rebecca Vardy, Jamie Vardy's wife, in response to Colleen's allegations that she's been leaking stories to about the Sun, has basically said, look, arguing with Colleen is like arguing with a pigeon. It doesn't matter what you say or do, they always end up pooing on your head.
So we're going to be doing that very shortly. We're going to speak to James first, who will be on the phone very shortly. As mentioned, a big weekend, actually. League One, League Two, it has to be said. Certainly in League One, a couple of surprise packages, which I'm interested to ask James about.
I like the way that, we normally tease, like, oh, and up next we've got Ian Botham, or, up next we've got Wayne Rooney. This one, up next, Patrick's going to argue with a pigeon.
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued as to how this it might give us a bit of an idea as to who's going to win the spat between the two.
Yeah.
I know you're very much Team Colleen.
I'm Team Colleen.
Yeah,
I'm Team Colleen. And I think everyone kind of has to be now.
Do you think? Because I know, we heard from Danielle Lloyd, she's very much Team Colleen, and she's really stuck you're in with.
No, what I am, I'll be very honest with you now, because I used to grow up. We used to watch Coronation Street and stuff. I didn't realise how much I missed the soap opera, and this is it now. So what I really hope happens is that yes, I'm Team Colleen, but I hope in about a week's time it emerges that it wasn't Rebecca Vardy, and the whole thing kicks off, and then you end up with them sat next to each other on Good Morning Britain or This Morning, while Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby forensically try to analyse their friendship while they paint a smile on.
Yeah. There's every chance it can happen. I'm a big fan of The Usual Suspects, the film.
Yeah.
And so I'll always remember the feeling I got at the end of that film. I don't want to ruin it for anyone that's not seen it, but if you haven't seen it at this point, then I'd question why.
Yeah.
But the end of that film with that Kaiser Soze moment, and you realise that actually everything you thought didn't exist.
Am I the only one thinking that there's only one way to solve this?
Go on.
Wayne Rooney and Jamie Vardy have a fight.
I mean, maybe. Maybe that's the answer.
Right, do it.
Well,
Go on, lads.
We're going to put that together very shortly, but before that, we'll have a serious conversation.
Got Eddie Hearn's number.
We'll have delighted to say we've got James Richard, Football League expert and part of the D3, D4 podcast, is on the line. Morning, James.
Morning, guys. How's it going?
Well, yeah, good, thanks. Good. Yeah, look, full list of fixtures, obviously, in League One, League Two. I want to touch on a couple of teams in particular. Certainly looking at the League One table, one of our reasonably local teams, Wycombe Wanderers, having an extraordinary time, find themselves second in the league. I just want to ask you, what's going on there? Because I know they've got one of the smallest budgets in the league, from what I understand.
Yeah, they have a small budget, but they've got a really tight bond and a manager who has been given time. He's been given support from his board, and he's built a really good philosophy and a really good squad of players there. You look at it and you think, yeah, small budget, but actually, I mean, he's got guys who play with energy, with the heart on their sleeve, 100% effort every game. They work very, very hard. Their home form is excellent, and it's no surprise when you see their results that quite often they come back from 2 or 3 goals down to get either victories or get points on a regular basis, which, okay, it's not ideal that sometimes they let other teams get in front, but, against a team like Peterborough the other week, who have a huge budget by comparison to them, they came back from 3-1 down to get a 3-3 draw.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about the character. It's all about the way they play with 100% energy. They play with like I said, with a lot of determination, and it's very hard to play against a team that really do care and really do put in the effort. And there's quite a lot of teams, I think, that will struggle. I mean, yes, if they have injuries, they will end up struggling. Be interesting to see if they can maintain it, but I think Gareth Ainsworth being linked to several jobs now elsewhere is no surprise at all.
Yeah, indeed. I just want to talk about one of the big fixtures involving one of our London clubs, Southend Wimbledon. Arguably, it's already a 6-pointer. They're both in the relegation zone, which, given that Bolton obviously started on -12 and Bury aren't there anymore, effectively they are occupying the two relegation spots at the moment. Is it fair to say that's a 6-pointer?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, these two teams were a couple of years prior to the season kicking off as strugglers. It's transpired that that's the case, and I think you'd find many people not surprised at that at all. Southend, under Kevin Bond, just scraped home last season. His recruitment was pretty poor, and you looked at the kind of depth of their squad and the quality that he had, and you really questioned whether they're good enough to stay up, and it's proven to be the case. Obviously, with Wimbledon, we know Wimbledon have a small budget. Wally Downs was obviously the correct choice to come in and keep them up. He had that right mentality, but you do see it quite often that managers who are good at keeping teams up don't necessarily then build on that over the summer. And I think that's transpired for Wimbledon, and obviously he's now Kevin Bond's gone and Wally Downs is currently suspended. I think with Glenn Hodges, you can see there's a slight different sort of pace and energy to the way they've been playing. I think Wimbledon should be quite positive going into this. I think they have the better chance, and their play of late has been more positive, and you'd expect them to go there and be the more likely side to win it, if any. But obviously, Southend are linked heavily with Sol Campbell, so it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out.
It will. And just a quick word on, another manager that was sacked. Jack Ross left Sunderland. Sunderland is sick. Bit of a surprise, I think it's fair to say. Kevin Phillips heavily linked with potentially taking over there. Were you surprised to see him go?
Not really. I don't think it's necessarily fair, but this is modern football we're talking about, and the fans really did not like, there's huge pressure. The fans did not like the football that the team were playing. And they got results weren't terrible, but a lot of the results were kind of scraped home. So I think he drew 19 games 1-1 between the start of last season and this one, and the fans were quite fed up, I think, with the fact that they were second best in a lot of those draws and a lot of those games. And obviously the expectation levels at Sunderland are that you got to go and win games of football playing good football. So it's a shame, because I think you look at where they are in the table, and anyone else would probably say that's a good start. But Sunderland fans have different ideas, different expectations, and I have to say that maybe it's partly could be to do with the new owners coming in. Maybe saying that they want a different approach. But if I was them, I'd bite off Daniel Stendel's hand to get him up there, because he was brilliant with Barnsley last season in this division. So that would be a very interesting appointment.
Yeah, indeed. Great stuff, James. Appreciate you joining us. That's James Richards, Football League expert and part of the D3, D4 podcast, giving us his thoughts on League 1, League 2. Of course, a full set of fixtures. Interestingly as well, Exeter, their goalkeeper, Lewis Ward, played with a broken arm at Crewe last Saturday. He's going to be out for a period of time. Rumours are that they're bringing in a goalkeeper today, but it looks like Harry Isted, their number 2, will get some games. And I think they're bringing in a South Africa goalkeeper this morning.
Played with a broken arm?
Well, as you do.
He's
in goal. Yeah, it turned out to be quite a serious injury. He's going to be out for a couple of months, so they are bringing in a goalkeeper short term.
Puts you to shame, mate, doesn't it?
I know.
Oh, gosh, I've got an itch. Better have a month off.
Okay, it wasn't quite an itch, was it, Patrick? Ruptured bicep.
Oh, no. Paper cut.
Broken cheek. And broken eye.
Yeah, my finger in a door.
Ruptured shoulder.
Yeah.
4 screws in my elbow.
Oh, yeah, just actually don't fancy it this morning.
Reconstructed knee.
Right.
3 minutes to 8.
This is Love Sport. Think the energy price cap will save you money? Think again. You could be saving a lot more on cheaper energy tariffs. Price comparison site A Spokesman Said will show you just how much money you could be saving against your current tariff. Don't throw away your hard-earned money to the energy companies. Check out aspokesmansaid.com and you could switch to cheaper bills in minutes.
thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country. If you've ever had to get out of your car on the side of a motorway, you'll know how it feels. Just imagine what it's like to be working on a motorway. So please, drive carefully, follow the signs, stick to the speed limit, stay in the correct lane, and keep a safe distance from the car in front. People working on our roads are making them safe for all of us. Keep the roads safe for them. Highways England, connecting the country.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee. Patrick Christys. Do you know what we didn't get to do in that last section, Patrick?
Oh, yeah, I didn't argue with the pigeon,
we
did I?
didn't. Well, we're going to find some time this hour. I promise you that,
All
because
right,
I know that you want to see if you can get to the bottom of this. Of course, if you just joined us, Colleen Rooney and Rebecca Vardy. It rumbles on. In fact, it's gathered a bit of pace.
Yeah, Rebecca Vardy said that it's like arguing with a pigeon. You can say what you like, but it's still going to poo on your head.
There you go. So we're going to be having that conversation shortly. We're going to be speaking to Steve Howie, former England defender, getting his thoughts on England versus Czech Republic. We've got David Arnott, the columnist for the Scrum magazine, talking about Scotland potentially suing rugby. We're going to be talking about the typhoons that are taking place over there. They don't take place, actually. That's probably the wrong word.
What's the word?
Like an event. Occur.
Yeah.
Much better word. As always, get in touch. 0208 70 20 558 on WhatsApp, at Love Sport Radio on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Or why not tune in on YouTube? Always good to see you. Stay tuned. Love Sport.
On digital radio, online, mobile, and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 8, Brexit Secretary Stephen Barclay is meeting the EU's top negotiator Michel Barnier in Brussels. There seems to be hope of some kind of deal this morning after talks between the Prime Minister and his Irish counterpart ended on a positive note. Our Europe correspondent Michelle Clifford says yesterday's discussions will be top of the agenda.
Michel Barnier will then at lunchtime go and brief diplomats from the EU 27 nations. They will then report back to the EU 27 leaders, and of course it's those leaders who will need to decide whether anything is acceptable.
There's been an explosion on an Iranian oil tanker off the Saudi coast. It's on fire and oil is gushing into the Red Sea, but the cause isn't yet known. Just 6% of migrants who arrived in the UK on small boats this year have been deported. Figures obtained by Sky News show almost 1,500 people have crossed the Channel illegally since the start of December 2018. The Home Office says more than 85 have been sent back. Masood, who's from Iran, travelled in a canoe between France and England and now lives in Birmingham.
It was dark, it was really dangerous. We had to big storm and we have nothing choice to back in the tents with the kayak, because if you were walking in the street, 100% police catch you and put you in the prison.
Donald Trump says he thinks they'll be able to work something out regarding an American woman involved in a fatal car crash in the UK. Anne Sakoulas has diplomatic immunity and left the country in August. More than 40 people have been arrested during weapons and drugs raids across East London. Scotland Yard says 50 properties were targeted as part of Operation Linstock. And qualifying for the Japanese Grand Prix has been pushed back by a day because of a super typhoon. The battle for pole position will take place just hours before Sunday's race. That's the latest. I'm Kat Suave.
Love Sport.
Time is money. Or so money says. Well, money. I know you like to dictate every hour of every day, add to my to-do list and throw the odd spanner in the works. But not anymore. This is my business, and I run it on my watch. I'm in control now, money. And times are changing. Save time with instant business invoicing, now on the Barclays app. Search Barclays Business and make money work for you.
Must have a Barclays business account. T's and C's apply.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Good morning, Love Sport Breakfast, Love Sport Radio. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10. Let's touch on those top stories this morning. I suppose dispute would be the best word between Colleen and Rebecca Vardy rumbles on. It's on the front pages of, certainly The Sun and several papers today. We're going to be discussing that in more detail over the next couple of hours. Bulgaria fuming at England fears of racist chanting. Eddie Jones has no sympathy for Scotland's situation. Northern Ireland suffer late heartbreak in Holland. 2 injury time goals mean they lose 3-1 to the Dutch. Scotland thrashed 4-0 by Russia. And Man United set to lose Chevrolet sponsor worth £450 million. Chevrolet claiming they spent too much on that sponsorship. Lots to come, so do stay tuned. Producer Kieran is, of course, with us as well and joins us now. We're going to be talking a bit about the racing, because the Bulgarians not happy. The Bulgarian president not happy with the fact that England have touched on the maybe racism based on previous experience. Southgate responded to the Bulgarian president, who was fuming at the fact racism has become such a big issue before Monday's game.
I can totally understand why the Bulgarian president would feel as he does, because we have purely been responding honestly to questions that we've been asked by you guys. That will then be relayed however it might be relayed in Bulgaria, and the way that that's pitched could appear provocative or appear that we're the people that are laying the subject on the table. So if I was him and I was only reading those quotes and not knowing the context of why the things were said and the responses were said, then I would be, I would feel probably as he does.
Just to clarify that, we're talking about the Bulgarian Football Union president. Kieran, I wanted to get Kieran's thoughts on this, because Southgate makes a good point. Although Patrick has just returned with a huge
stonking kind of Red Bull.
So I asked for an energy drink. I didn't ask for a litre of Red Bull. That's insane.
That's why it took him so long.
Always over deliver, mate. Always over deliver.
We'll do bicep curls with that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
I won't.
So I want to get Kieran's thoughts on this. So Southgate makes a good point that it's not necessarily him or the England team that are bringing it up. They're being asked a lot of questions. You're sat in a press conference. I've been there. We've all been there. Most of us have been there. Well, you're being asked certain questions, and of course, you're going to respond to those questions. And given that a lot of the questions are in regards to the potential of racism, all they're doing is answering the questions. But of course, the Bulgarian Football Union president, understandably, is slightly frustrated by this.
Yeah, and I'm quite glad the way Southgate's dealt with it, actually. And he actually kind of referred to the Hartlepool incident a few weeks ago to say that actually our problems aren't over and done with in this country in terms of racist incidents. We still get them in this country, and actually what he's doing is sort of deflecting the blame away from his team, and he just wants to talk about the football, which is fair enough. And he's trying to not make this into a big media storm, because if it did, it would probably distract from the game and perhaps create tension in the stadium, more likely to have racist chants, perhaps, in that sense.
I think there's a bit of a lesson here, which is that, because we've been talking about racism in Bulgaria for so long now, that actually, if the game goes without a hitch, it might allay some of the concerns.
Not a chance, Rich.
That there are, literally, they're failing to hide the fact that he's just cracked open his can of Red Bull. No, but there might actually be a chance that when we get future games in places like this, racism isn't dominating it. But I just can't help but feel we're going to go out there, we're going to be about 3 minutes in, having had our national anthem booed, to then just hear monkey noises ringing around the stadium and all this kind of stuff, and you just think, right, okay, well, here we go again. You know?
Yep, absolutely. But what I'm saying is the way Southgate has dealt with this line of questioning, especially after the Bulgarian Football Union president has come out and been so strong in his statement to even write a letter to the European, football body and to say, look, this isn't on, that, England are basically accusing us of, or accusing the Bulgarian locals of racism before the game's even begun, which and as Southgate says, you can understand that point of view, really. But, the proof is in the pudding, as the classic cliche goes.
From that to another contentious topic, and it's being, I suppose, portrayed as a positive story this morning. So the Iranian national team played yesterday.
They did.
They had a tough game. They scraped past Cambodia 14-0.
Yeah, close one. That
close one.
You never. That's the old thing, though. You're never safe until the 13th goes in.
No, and it was one of them where the first goal changed everything, changed the dynamic. Yeah, first goal was crucial.
Yeah.
But obviously the big thing about this game was more so that this was the first time that women have been allowed to go and watch the national team. 3,500 of them turned up. They had their own section. They were segregated. They were 100 yards or 100 feet, I think it was, from the men in the stadium. So we've seen some of the pictures, and they had a great time. By the way, they were absolutely loving it.
So 40 years of exile it's taken. So in 1979, there was the Islamic Revolution in Iran, and that basically banned women from being able to live a normal life. And so in those 40 years, Iranian football stadiums have rarely opened their doors to women. But in 2001, actually 20 Irish women were permitted to watch a World Cup playoff between Iran and Ireland after Iran let 100 women attend a game against Bolivia last October. The Prosecutor General said it would lead to sin if there were a repeat. And I mean, yesterday, the 4,000 women who took the stadium, I mean, that's one overbearing thing that came from me, that to see the smiles on these women's faces. Like, for example, Masheed, who is 36 years old. She's waited her whole life to be able to see Iran's national team play in person. And yesterday she got her chance. This is a triumph for women of my homeland. Our calls, pushes and efforts have paid off. And you can only have to go online and see the pictures. The raw joy on these women's faces. I've never seen a more smiling, happy bunch of people. And just that first taste of freedom, and you just look at it and you go, well, naturally that'll lead to sin.
We are in 2019, right? Like,
oh no,
this is a story in 2019.
No, sorry, not if you're in Iran, mate. No, I see what you've done there. You're right. I know we are here in 2019. In Iran, they're not.
Right.
Yeah.
I got you now.
Yeah,
so
I know.
it's like you slip into a time vortex.
Yeah. Time travel does exist.
Yeah.
Go to Iran.
Yeah, fine. Well, I mean, it is, like you say, Rich, it's being kind of billed as a feel-good story, and I suppose it is. But the fact they're still segregated from the men, it's just nuts.
Can anyone just tell me, what it is that people think is going to happen? So, like I said to you earlier, Rich, I got on the tube this morning. A woman came on, sat opposite me. She was wearing a short-sleeve T-shirt, jeans. I could see her face and her arms. Nothing happened. Nothing happened at all. She got off the same stop that I did. She went her separate ways. I didn't follow her. Everything was normal. I don't think we even spoke to each other. So can anyone just tell me what it is that's going to happen if women are allowed to do things like drive or vote or own a bank account or be able to go somewhere without a chaperone or go to the football? Like, what? And if it is the case that actually it's the men's fault because apparently men aren't able to look at a woman without doing something to her, well then it's the men that should be banned from going places, isn't it?
I mean, look. Yeah, no. Look, it's just there's no
nuts.
argument. This is the problem. I wish I could play devil's advocate and kind of, but you can't. So look, yes, happy story. It's a step forward, but it's such a baby step.
I tell you where we can play devil's advocate.
Go on.
Wagwater.
Yay!
Oh, no, I knew we were coming back to this at some point.
Hey!
So
we
need
to hear that Danielle Lloyd audio again because it's cracking, isn't it? She really does go in for.
She is very much Team Colleen. Let's hear.
I think she did it. Sadly, I really do. And I think it's a shame because she probably never thought that she was going to get caught out. But obviously not the money. I think it's the press issue. I think she thought maybe if she was feeding the press stories, she would maybe get more headlines for herself. I honestly don't know.
I mean, actually, I was just wondering, Danielle, because there's been a few things. I obviously live with my long-suffering partner. And there's been a few issues. And so a couple of nights ago I'd ordered KFC. And I know that I left one extra wing there that I was going to have.
Okay, you had it later.
And no, I couldn't because it had gone. And I was just wondering if, out of me and my girlfriend, who does Danielle think did it?
I think she did it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I thought that, actually. I thought that. And the other day, because my girlfriend's quite passive-aggressive,
right?
There was a note on the mirror, just written in the steam, that just said, I'm leaving you. And I'm not sure exactly who did it.
I think she did it.
I know. I thought that as well. I didn't want to admit it. But yeah.
And you mentioned Danielle Lloyd, of course, now very much part of the crime detective.
Oh, yeah.
She's taken on a role, and because she has that intuition, it's something whereby just a feeling, and she just knows.
Yeah, she does. I mean, I like that, the end of that clip, I think she goes, and I've never met her. So you've just looked at this situation and done what we've all done, which is jump to massive conclusions and then state them to the mast.
Yeah, well, there was an interesting quote from Rebecca Vardy about Colleen, I believe.
Yes, there was. So Rebecca Vardy has come out swinging, not in the sun, obviously.
Yeah.
And she's saying that there's no point arguing with Colleen Rooney, because it would be like arguing with a pigeon, because no matter what you say, it's still going to poo on your head.
I mean, the thing is, if you were to argue with a pigeon, it might not necessarily be a bad thing.
I argue with pigeons quite regularly.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, we can see how it plays out.
You brought a pigeon. This is where producer Kieran really earns his money, right? Because you know those particularly gammy-looking pigeons that you get outside Waterloo Station that have got like one kind of claw and not really a foot. Like they're jet black because of all the dirt. It's got one eye that's just kind of crusted shut. He's actually managed to go and scoop up one of those and bring it into the studio.
Fantastic.
So well, I'm going to have a round with it.
Let's see how it plays out, shall we?
Right, okay, look, you keep pooing on my car. This is a new low.
I don't think this is going to happen, is it? Let's move on and perhaps get back to something a little bit more serious. Kieran.
That might have been the worst thing we've ever done on radio.
Kieran.
Well, I'm glad you went there, guys. You felt like you had to try it.
It's
like the experimental phase.
Don't do it. Don't have an argument with a pigeon. Don't pretend to be a pigeon.
Do you know the worst thing? Do you know the worst thing is I've been practicing my pigeon all morning. I've got so many different accents that the pigeon can do, and I just feel like I haven't been able to really give them to you.
Oh, God.
Anyway, Kieran, what's going on?
Well, Typhoon Hagibis continues to dominate both the airstream around Japan and the headlines because Formula One is obviously going on in Japan over the weekend in Suzuka. Now, Formula One has decided to cancel all activities at the Japanese Grand Prix on Saturday, which has meant that this morning's free practice, which is normally just, a way to get your tyres and your engine sorted and see how your car's doing, has become slightly more important because qualifying has been moved back now to take place 4 hours before the race starts on Sunday at 2:10 local time. That's 6:10 in the morning our time. So Sunday, if you want to get up nice and early, you can potentially see quite an entertaining race. But if qualifying can't take place that early, then the free practice results from this morning are going to be deemed as the qualifying results, and that will mean that the grid is decided by second practice. Now, that means that Valtteri Bottas will take pole in that situation. He finished with a fastest lap of 1:27.785. And Lewis Hamilton was a 10th behind him in second, so that would be a Mercedes 1-2. Max Verstappen third, and Ferrari could only finish 4th and 5th in free practice 2. So that means that potentially, if qualifying can't go ahead early Sunday because the rain and the wind is still too much from Saturday's effects of Hagibis, then potentially Mercedes are looking good. But so some real struggles to the F1, which probably means that there'll be some struggles to the rugby too.
Indeed. The forecast, from what we understand, it should be fine on Sunday. It sounds like it's going to be the worst tomorrow, and then it should clear.
Exactly, yeah. We had meteorologist John Hammond, who is an absolute legend, isn't he? He came on the show and said it's going to whip off into the Pacific by Sunday. So hopefully it'll the worst of its effects will be seen on Saturday only, and hopefully that means any sort of effects to the country will remain minimal, which is obviously what we're hoping and praying for. But obviously, to organise both an F1 Grand Prix and a Rugby World Cup in typhoon season, it's a bit nuts, isn't it?
Doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah. It is weird. Do you reckon that because obviously you have to put together like a bidding committee, don't you? So like various nations will bid for things. Like, do you reckon that the Japanese lot were just like, right, look, we're not gonna bring up typhoon season, right? If they ask about it, we'll be honest. But if they don't bring it up, we're not going to mention typhoon. And then no one raised it, and they're like, right, okay.
It's kind of like the estate agent that's selling the house that is next to the railway, which goes past every 10 minutes.
Mate, this literally happened to me.
No.
This literally happened to me, right? So I went round the house, and he asked me to go round, right, this is it. He asked me to go round either, and he gave me 2 times in the morning, either way before work at like 5 in the morning, and I was like, that's weird, mate, why am I doing that? Or later on in the day, and like later on in the evening. And it's transpired. So I went round for the later one in the evening, which actually suited me because I was working really late. Of course, the tubes had stopped running. Went round, shook on it. Fantastic. I live on the Northern Line.
No.
I live on the Northern Line.
I had a similar one. Yeah, similar one where I asked the question outright, is it quiet or is it quite a peaceful neighbour? Oh, silent, beautiful in the mornings. Stampede upstairs. I was in an apartment, ground floor apartment, the loudest. It was as if there was no soundproofing between the 2 floors. It was so loud. It was ridiculously loud. But I guess that's it, right?
My estate agent, Amir, had leopard print head seats. His shirt was undone all the way down to the belly button, revealing numerous gold chains. And once in an email, he accidentally called me Bjorn.
You look like a Bjorn. We're going to be talking to Steve Howie next.
England is the wettest country around, but what do you expect if the Queen's going to reign for so long?
Love sport.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. This means that travelling to the EU will change. You'll need to check online if your passport is valid for travel to Europe. If you're planning on driving, you'll need to check if you have the right documents to drive. And make sure your travel insurance covers all your healthcare needs. To keep your trip on track, check what you need to do at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident, and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country. Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country. If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle, or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. Now, we touched on a lot of the big sporting stories this morning, but of course, one of the biggest is England. They are in action against the Czech Republic tonight, and who better to discuss this with than Steve Howie, former England defender. Morning, Steve.
Morning, how are you doing?
Morning, yeah, good, thanks. Hope you're well too. A lot of the conversation before this game, not necessarily in regards to this game, more so the Bulgaria game, has been in regards to the potential of racism. So it doesn't feel like there's been that much discussion about the football. But going into this game, away to the Czech Republic, the way that England have been playing, you would expect England to go there and get a victory tonight?
Yeah, you'd have thought so. I mean, look, I think Gareth's got, a fantastic young squad together now. I think the worrying thing, I suppose, is, lately been conceding a few goals. But we've certainly got the players to cause them problems. And of course, you'd have thought that, we would go there as favourites. But of course, going away from home to these countries is always going to be difficult. They'll raise the game, absolutely, without a doubt. But I feel as though we have got enough quality to make sure that, we can get the job done.
Well, one area I want to talk to you about, of course, an area of expertise for yourself, the centre-back pairing. So it looks like it's going to be Maguire and Keane tonight. A few discussions as to whether they are the best centre-back pairing. But from what you've seen of them, are they good enough to help us go deep into a major tournament?
I have to be honest, I'm a little bit surprised with Keane. I think, there's a couple of defenders. I mean, for me, I think I'm surprised that somebody like Conor Cody hasn't been involved. I think he's been, very, very good for Wolves last season. I think this season, I watched him against Manchester City and I thought he was absolutely excellent. But look, Keane's in that position. He's been in the squad now for a period of time. Obviously, you've got Maguire, who's a very good player, not having the best of times at Man United, but Man United's just not having the best of times, full stop. But still both very, very good players. So hopefully they can bond, they can have that understanding, and if you get that, then it's half the battle.
Looking at the front three, it looks likely that it will be Sandro Keane and Sterling. Your thoughts on that as a front three partnership?
Well, again, it's an exciting partnership. I'm obviously disappointed that Maddison's had to pull out, I think, through illness. But, Mason Mount, everybody's been talking about him. Tammy Abrahams, everybody's been talking about him as well. Sterling, look, he's been in fantastic form. He has been for a long time now, and that's certainly a lot down to Guardiola. But obviously, I think Sterling himself, because he's put the hard work in. But certainly the front three will cause problems to anybody, and I expect the same again tonight.
And I've got to ask you, again, another area of expertise, Newcastle, of course. The Longstaff brothers making the headlines at the weekend. Matty Longstaff today has been linked with the under-21s, potentially for the next squad. And Sean Longstaff as well, of course, been linked with the first team. Do you think they're ready for England call-ups?
Well, look, I think Sean did ever so well when he first came in. Then he unfortunately got the injury. It's took him a while to kind of get back to good form. I think his game against Man United was excellent. And we've seen, Gareth is not afraid to put lads in who are, still at a young age. Maybe he's not as many Premier League games behind him as what used to be. But Gareth has proven that he hasn't got any problems with that. And I think if Sean continues to progress, then I've got no doubts that in the future he will be in the squad. And I think as far as Matty's concerned, look, you couldn't have had a better debut. You're making your debut against Manchester United, 52,000 there. He has an excellent game and scores the winner. So, again, it's somebody that I'm sure Steve Bruce will nurture him, look after him. And again, if he continues to do what he's doing, then of course he will make that next step up to the under-21s.
Just want to touch on the game they got upcoming against Bulgaria. A lot made of the potential for racism based on past experience. Out of interest, have you been involved in any games, whether it be England or club football, where you've experienced that? You've experienced that some of the players in the team are receiving racist chants?
Well, look, that's kind of back in the day. I'm pretty old now, so of course it did go on, but I think we were still, unfortunately, I think it was just one of those things. But I think now everybody's a lot more educated. Everybody seems to know what is right and what's wrong. It was never right. But at the same time, I think nowadays, I think it's absolutely right what's been discussed in the England camp. You would like to think that players would want to stay on, and I'm sure they do. But of course, it is a team game, and if you might get 2 or 3 players that are subject to this, which is horrendous for them, but and will want to see the game out. And basically, I think the best way to answer them is to win, and to win emphatically. But of course, if there's one of the players that maybe is feeling comfortable with it, and rightly so, you are a team, and if it's a case of coming off, then you come off. But if that is the case, then something huge has to be done. It's not good just fining these clubs or countries. You've got to make a major statement to basically say to everybody else, look, this is totally unacceptable. And I think if it does happen against Bulgaria, because we know they've got history, then, and if the lads come off, for me, I think the only way to actually react to that from FIFA and UEFA is to ban them and is to kick them out. Because it is unacceptable. And as I said, fines is just not enough. Completely not enough. But totally behind the team. It is a team game. And if you've got one individual that's, feeling it a bit more than some of the others, then, as long as that person's strong enough to actually make his views known, then, fine, walk off.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. A couple more players just want to ask you on. Henderson and Rice, looks likely that they'll start. You think they're the right two to offer the protection for the back four?
Well, I think, look how far Jordan Henderson's come on since he went to Liverpool. He's the mainstay, he's the captain. I think a fantastic player. He does that job very well. I think not only that, he's a fantastic organiser. He is the type of a person that gives players a kick up the backside if they're not doing their job. And look how well West Ham's done so far this season, and obviously Declan Rice is one of the reasons for that. So, 2 very good players. But as I said, you can look around the whole of the squad and certainly the team that Gareth puts out, and it has got good quality, and it's exciting times really for the English national team.
Yeah, it is indeed. Steve, really appreciate you joining us.
Pleasure, thank you.
Steve Howie there, former England defender, giving us his thoughts on England versus Czech Republic, which does take place tonight. Now, Patrick, I believe there's some very interesting breaking news.
Yes, massive news. So we've been covering, of course, relentlessly since Alberto Salazar, the founder and coach at the Nike Oregon Project. We've been covering it ever since he was banned for 4 years by the anti-doping agency. And this is massive news. Nike have announced that they are now closing the Nike Oregon Project. So that's essentially means the end of the road for Nike's elite level performance enhancing, performance endurance, cheating place where they do the running. Less than 2 weeks after the US Anti-Doping Agency handed down this 4-year ban, that Nike have announced that that's time to call it a day. A quote here from Nike chairman, president, and CEO. That is like, when you get a child and you go, what do you want to be? I want to be king of the world. That's what this guy's like, isn't it? Nike's chairman, president and CEO, Mark Parker, gone, this situation, along with ongoing unsubstantiated assertions, is a distraction for many of the athletes and is compromising their ability to focus on their training and competition needs. I have therefore made the decision to wind down the Oregon Project. Right, you can just see what they're going to do with this now. They're just desperately pouring as much petrol as they possibly can inside that building. Just lighting it. There goes all the evidence. Fantastic.
And that's the end of that chapter.
And we'll never hear another word. Never, no. It's just bonkers. But I look, clearly, this is an admission of that there's more to be had here. Because the longer that carries on, the longer it continues, then the more's going to come out, surely.
Well, this is it. And if there is a big investigation into what's gone on, but we've touched on it before, the amount of athletes that have come through that particular project, again, it's going to cast such a dark shadow over every single athlete that's come through that now, which is a shame, because I'm sure, I'd like to believe that a lot that have come through that will be absolutely innocent, but of course that has now been tarnished in a massive way.
I must say I'm quite surprised by this, because Salazar obviously has nothing to do with athletics for 4 years.
Yeah.
Now, this to me here is an admittance that they are not able to operate with any success without Alberto Salazar. Now, what set Alberto Salazar out from the rest of them was a drugs cheat. So I'm surprised that they shut it down. You would have thought they'd just go all out for the best coaches in the world, do a squeaky clean image as much as they could, and just carry on. And then, as and when one of those athletes wins something, they go, look, see, we did it. It wasn't a cheating. But they've just gone, Oh, right, has the drug man gone? Right, better shut the thing down then.
What do you think? 0208 70 20 558 on the WhatsApp. We're going to be speaking to David Arnott, columnist for Scrum magazine next.
This is Love Sport. Listen to Love Sport Radio on your smartphone today. Simply download the free Love Sport app from the App Store or Google Play. Tap the play button and you'll be able to listen to your favourite station. Anytime, anywhere. Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice. The cost of car, van or motorbike insurance can put people off driving completely, but you don't have to pay massive premiums to protect your vehicle from theft or damage. Price comparison site spokesmansaid.com can get a great deal for you.
Spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Have you had enough of extortionate energy bills? A spokesman said could help you find the cheapest energy deals on the market. Don't take our word for it. There's hundreds of spokesman said customers who've saved big. Brian from Derbyshire saved £400 on his energy bills, and Tony from Northampton saved a massive £2,800 on his gas and electric. A spokesmansaid.com, the leading price comparison site where you can switch to the cheapest energy tariffs on the market in just minutes.
Spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
If you've ever had to get out of your car on the side of a motorway, you'll know how it feels. Just imagine what it's like to be working on a motorway. So please, drive carefully, follow the signs, stick to the speed limit, stay in the correct lane, and keep a safe distance from the car in front. People working on our roads are making them safe for all of us. Keep the roads safe for them. Highways England, connecting the country. Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident. And save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
This is Love Sport.
That's what breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10. Lots going on in the rugby world at the moment. Of course, the big typhoon has caused a couple of games to be cancelled. England.
Pesky typhoon, eh?
It's not just any typhoon. It's a super typhoon. That has meant the England versus France game has been cancelled. However, of course, Scotland due to play on Sunday, and it is quite a key game. Interesting story that Scotland, or Scottish rugby chiefs, were prepared to go to war with the game's governing body to ensure that the decisive World Cup match against Japan goes ahead. Reports suggest that the SRU is ready to take legal action against World Rugby if it cancels the final pool game, a game which is scheduled to take place on Sunday as Super Typhoon Hagibis prepares to wreak havoc across Japan's eastern coast. So they, of course, such scenario, if the game was cancelled, would mean that Scotland would exit the World Cup. The Scots need to win to have a chance to progress into the quarterfinals.
Yes, they do. I mean, Eddie Jones has been quite cut and dry about this, the England coach, just saying, well, they kind of should have done better earlier on, shouldn't they? They should have got more points in the bag earlier on. To an extent, I get it, because, look, the thing with the weather is everyone is at its mercy, and it is a total lottery. So the fact that, unfortunately, now it is affecting Scotland, and I feel awful for Scottish fans who have gone out there, and we spoke earlier in the show, didn't we? We spoke to Carl and Shannon Green, who are a newlywed couple who are out there on their honeymoon. They are English fans, and they flew to Tokyo yesterday for their honeymoon, had the tickets for England-France game gets cancelled. And it is a shocker, isn't it? It's an absolute nightmare for people, but it's the weather. It happens.
Well, it does, but again, this goes back to arranging a World Cup.
Where does this end? Sorry, Rich. Where does this end, though? Because if the Scottish Rugby Union Board successfully sue World Rugby for this, like, what happens? Can I just sue? Who do I sue? The Met Office when my train's late because of the weather. What happens? Where does this end?
I guess, right, so this is the point. Gregor Townsend, Scotland's head coach, essentially says that it should be played again. That's basically it. He believes this would allow the match to be rearranged if there's a huge storm. However, World Cup rules state where a pool match cannot be commenced on the day in which it is scheduled, it shall not be postponed to the following day. It shall be considered as cancelled. In such situations, the result should be declared a draw and teams will be allocated 2 match points each and no score registered. So you're right, the rules state that this is the case, that it's a draw, no points. Kieran wants to have his say.
Why is there no protocol in place to rearrange these pool matches? Like, there's enough time.
What happened in the cricket? Because it got me thinking.
The cricket's slightly different because there was literally a game every day, so they couldn't really do it. But like, there's going to be a bit of a break now before the quarterfinals. So why are they not just moving it to Monday, for example?
So Townsend said here, the way I read the rules was that you can't change days, but you could change venues and contingencies would be in place. I've since been told there is basically if a major weather event were to happen and things can change because of exceptional circumstances. If that means Monday because it takes a day for things to be put back in order, then who knows? But right now, I think they're planning on it going ahead on Sunday. I mean, so right, I guess what you say, they could change venues. I mean, by the way, the amount of effort they'd have to go to, going back to the fans, 70-odd thousand fans that are due to be at a game, and if they suddenly move it the other side of Japan, it's not quite as simple as that. It just sounds like a mess. The fact they're holding it in typhoon season, you know?
Yeah, I kind of wish we had a typhoon season over here. It'd be nice because we just have a pretty steady, constant weather stream, don't we? Of light drizzle, bit of sunshine, light drizzle, bit of sunshine.
Yeah.
I want it to go like Arctic tundra, then equator level heat.
Do you though? Because that's, I mean, that potentially with global warming, we might be heading that way anyway.
Well, I mean, look, I've been calling for it for years. I don't know what this Extinction Rebellion lot are on about. It's brilliant, fantastic.
We're not delving into this subject because you might get a lot of phone calls on this subject.
Oh, no, look, just quickly though on that. Sorry, I think back in the day, do you ever watch? Was it Tomorrow's World? Was that what a program used to be?
Yeah.
And he was like, in 2019 they'll have flying cars and space travel and a cure for all known illnesses. No, what we've got is some unwashed hippies clogging up a road while they sing Kumbaya and take cannabis.
That wouldn't have made a great show back in the day. I don't think they'd have got the viewers that they got had they predicted that future. That would be my guess. Right, can we bring this back to the rugby for a minute? But right, there is a point to be had in that if you're going to hold the tournament in Japan, to then hold it at a better time of the year. In fact, someone that's going to be able to help us with this, I'd like to say, we've got Dave on, columnist for Scrum magazine on the line. Morning, Dave.
Morning. How you doing?
Morning. Yeah, good. Thanks. I want to talk about this. Reading about the Scottish and how potentially suing on the back of if this game were to be cancelled on the Sunday. First and foremost, we're talking here about the fact they're holding the World Cup at this time of the year in Japan, because this isn't a surprise occurrence to have a typhoon at this time of the year, from what I understand. It does seem odd to me.
Yeah, I think everybody's known for a while that this could potentially be happening. So it does seem an odd thing to not have some kind of contingency plan in place. I'm surprised at Scotland Rugby that would consider to sue, I must admit. But they must have known that there was some kind of ruling, but I don't know. We're going to have to sit tight and wait and see on this one, I think.
Providing the game does go, and from what we understand, I mean, it should be okay. It sounds like the worst of the weather is going to be on the Saturday, and then it should clear by Sunday, or certainly clear enough for the game to go ahead. It'll be quite a tough game, this, for Scotland, won't it?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be an easy one at all. I think it's going to be very nervous. All that Scotland can hope for is that maybe the occasion gets to Japan and we can start to string the performances together like we've done the last couple of games, cut out some of the sloppiness and hopefully progress through to the next round.
Yeah, and would you expect, I guess like you say, it's kind of hanging in the balance to an extent. What are the Scottish fans making of their time out in Japan?
Seem to be loving it. I've got a few friends that are out there just now and they're having an absolute ball. Apparently the Japanese have been really, really welcoming. Can't do enough for anybody that's over there. And it seems to be an absolutely fantastic place to have held it.
Now, just kind of get me right on this, which is that I think that you guys should just play, shouldn't you? Because, I mean, Scotland, typhoon conditions, sorted, mate.
It's what we were born to do.
Yeah, I was in Aberdeen a couple of weekends ago. Beautiful part of the world. Loved it. Very blowy, right? I mean, I think this is fine. Surely you're in your element.
I don't have a problem with it. I think you just change the footwear to get the wellies on and hope for the best.
Out of interest, the typhoon being over there, has that spoiled the atmosphere at all, the tournament itself?
Yeah, I think it has. I mean, but when you look at the likes of Parisi talking yesterday about how how annoyed he is that their game's been cancelled, I think it's, instead of talking about how good the rugby's been and individual players, we're now talking about the weather and how they can't seem to make up their mind what they're going to do. And obviously, lives and safety have got to come first. But now we're talking about that rather than what a great tournament it's been and how it's turned into a bit of a shambles, really.
Yeah. Before you go, I've got to get a prediction for you. The big game on Sunday. How do you see it playing out?
I think it'll be tight, but I think Scotland have got just enough to do it and hope that Japan kind of freeze a wee bit on the occasion.
Good stuff. David, really appreciate you joining us.
No problem at all. Thank you.
David Arnott there, columnist for Scrum magazine, giving us his thoughts on the issues surrounding the Scottish rugby team at the moment.
It's the typhoon. What did you say? Is it killed the mood? It's the typhoon killed the mood.
Well, look, I mean...
Oh, yeah. Well, how was the wedding? Oh, well, the wedding was fantastic until that massive tsunami came. And to be honest, we couldn't even stand up to do the first dance. Oh, how was your kids' party? Oh, it was brilliant. We did have that raging wildfire, didn't we? And that really took the edge off.
Okay. maybe it wasn't the best question, but of course, I'm sure they're still having fun.
Yeah,
I'm sure they're still having fun. They're out in Japan.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got to have fun in Japan.
Yeah, typhoon or no typhoon.
Typhoon, preferably typhoon now.
We're going to be talking to Richard Thompson, England fan in Japan, who will miss the England versus France game because of the super typhoon. We'll be doing that next.
I'm not a snob. I just don't want to be in the same car as my chauffeur.
Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice.
Hi, my name's Kurt Edwards. I work in advertising and live in Surrey. Last year, the family content insurance was £745. A friend of mine had recommended a spokesmansaid.com when it came for this year's renewal. I managed to get it for £403. So for those 10 minutes on that website, I saved over £340. I told my family, my friends, you'd be absolutely mad not to give it a go.
Thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel and oil. Highways England, connecting the country. Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
Love Sport.
I work for a spokesmansaid.com. We can help you save money on your home insurance. All you need to do is visit a spokesmansaid.com and find out if we can find you a better deal.
Love Sport.
That's for breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. Producer Kieran wants to have his say.
Yes, I just want to whip through a few stories that didn't quite make the back pages but have made the online section this morning. Now, Everton manager, in fact, I think this has made the pages. Marco Silva has reportedly been told he has the next 3 matches to save his job on Merseyside.
Tough 3 matches as well, I
yeah,
believe.
Obviously they've had a nightmare start to the season. 2 victories from 8 games is obviously not what anyone was expecting, not just Everton fans, but we were all saying, Everton top 6, better than Man United on paper, but here they are having lost to the likes of Sheffield United and Aston Villa without scoring. 2 wins in 8 games. Burnley defeat was kind of a real sour one as well, because that's the sort of team Everton should be putting away. Crisis talks are said to have taken place at Goodison.
So to look at their next matches, West Ham at home, Brighton away, Watford at home, Tottenham at home, and then Southampton away. Sorry, next 5 matches. These are the 5 before the next international break. So
sure, but you would expect out of, West Ham, Brighton and
Watford,
that is 3 games where he needs to get at least 6, if not 7 points.
yeah, they got to win the 2 home games, and away at Brighton ordinarily is a tough game. Brighton looking pretty good at home. So yeah, I think really Everton, if they have aspirations to be top 6 or certainly to finish 7th, they do need to get 6 or 7 points from that. You look at the next 2 as well, Spurs at home, Southampton away. I don't know, it's like anything. You can look at it from both sides of the coin. I think on one side you go with the positive. Why not get a result against Spurs at the moment, the state they're in, and you go away to Southampton, again a winnable fixture. It could be 5 games, they pick up 12 points and they're in the top 8 again. So it could turn very quickly.
Well, David Moyes odds on with Paddy Power on Tuesday to take the job. I think the writing's on the wall a little bit for Marco Silva. I don't think it's just been the results, it's been the manner of the performances at Merseyside that is kind of giving him this 3-game sort of stay of execution, if you like, and I don't see him lasting in the job much longer.
No. Patrick, you see Marco Silva being there by the next international break?
Well, it's a tricky one with Marco Silva because he was at Hull for a bit, wasn't he? And they went down, but he developed a stonking reputation off the back of that, so whatever he was doing behind the scenes was earning him a lot of respect. Thought he was all right at Watford for a bit.
He was good until the link with Everton.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it went downhill rapidly.
So he clearly does have an incredible reputation behind the scenes that has afforded him more time than you would expect perhaps he should have got. I just feel like it's a bit stale there. But to be honest with you, I don't mean to offend Everton fans with this now. And look, this is coming from a United fan, and things are pretty terrible over there at the minute. But this is kind of just Everton, where it doesn't seem to matter how much money you could spend at that club or who you could really put in charge. Like, they're just going to finish about 10th, 11th, 12th, realistically, by the end of the season. Like, that's just them, isn't it, really? And so, I don't know, if they get rid of him, who has got a good reputation behind the scenes, is there anyone better waiting in the wings, really? There's argument there that David Moyes is going to get the job. Is that a step up?
I just think that it's more than the manager. It's very simple to look at the manager, and they will keep chopping and changing with their managerial team. But the point is, actually, it's lower down. It's the culture of the club. It's the infrastructure. It's, right, what's the youth system like? Are we seeing enough players coming through and making it into the first team? What's the style of play? Do they have a defined style of play from the top to the bottom?
Do you think it's psychological? Because they are always going to be the second club in that city. And do you think there is a mental block there?
There'll be certain issues with being the second biggest club in a small area, of course, because, well, for a start, we talk about the youth system, and Liverpool's is in fact, it's very good. We look at some of the players that have come through recently. So if you're going to choose Liverpool or Everton as a kid, you're choosing Liverpool at the moment. So that comes with its issues. I just think that the way in which football's changed, we still put so much emphasis on the manager. A team aren't doing well, we put so much emphasis on the manager, whereas actually now a lot of the managers are head coaches. They are interchangeable. A lot of it is other members of the recruitment team, the managerial team, that we don't even know who they are, but they're the ones that are putting together the structure for a football club. So I look at Marco Silva. Do I think, going on that principle, that really your head coach has to be the motivator, has to be brilliant when it comes to man management, tactically has to have a good idea and an awareness as to how to play and to break down the opposition? I don't get that impression that he's as good at that as maybe he was thought to be before he got the job.
No, definitely not. Just a quick one before we go back to the rugby. Man United hoping to make 8 new signings over the next 2 summer transfer windows as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer prepares to lead a major squad overhaul at Old Trafford. Now, all the noise that's coming out of United is that Ole is going to stay for the prolonged future because they see a vision with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They see him as a man at the helm that is giving them a lot more direction, a lot more identity than any of Moyes, Van Gaal and Mourinho have done since Fergie's departure. Now, according to The Telegraph, Ole is looking at a 3-year vision of a squad. It will be an evolution over the coming years. We are at base camp now, and I think United's recruitment over the summer, bringing in the likes of Maguire, Wan-Bissaka and Dan James, has gone down well in most parts, although the results haven't been great, as we all know. But the British talent is the way that United see their future. But then they're linked with the likes of Ruben Dias from Benfica, Emre Can, Mario Mandzukic. If Paul Pogba has to be out of the exit door, then perhaps they can get Can, Mandzukic and some money. They're also looking at Rostov midfielder Matthias Norman, which I think is sort of testament to where Man United are right now. I've literally never heard of the bloke. And United used to be linked with all the big names. They used to be able to bring in whoever they want. And now they're having to think a little bit more outside the box for who they want, who they think fits in, who they think they can progress and become a little bit more of a developing players club. And Ben Chilwell and James Maddison have been linked with United, but if I'm Chilwell and Maddison, why would I go there?
Yeah, well, we are going to be talking a little bit of rugby again in a minute. We're going to have Richard Thompson, England fan in Japan, who will miss the England versus France game tomorrow because, of course, the Super Typhoon, which has meant the game is called off. Just to add to Kieran's point there, I think... interested to see your thoughts, Patrick, as well. But I think it would be interesting if someone came up a little bit higher up and made it really clear that, look, this is a transitional season, because it doesn't feel like that's really happened. There is still an expectation from United fans that they're going to finish in the top 4, top 6. Well, there is.
Is there, though?
Well, like, okay, if someone said at the start of the season, look, there isn't, as long as we don't get relegated, we're happy, because it's just a transitional season, and the whole point is we're aiming to win the league in 2021. If someone come out and said that, then actually what they're doing at the moment is what is expected.
Yeah,
but it's not still, because we are still talking about them as if they're a top 6 club, and the truth is they're not.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Maybe a bit more clarity from above. But I think the problem is I do feel as though the people right at the top of the club at the moment don't necessarily know football that well. And so, for Ed Woodward, he probably was looking at this United team when they beat Chelsea on the first day of the season. He's going, sweet, this is it. We're going to come third. And actually, it's like, you're way off the pace, mate. You are so far off the pace.
Yeah. Well, look, we're going to go to the news shortly. But before we do, we've got a very special guest, Richard Thompson, England fan in Japan, who will miss the England versus France game because of the Super Typhoon that has hit Japan. Morning, Richard.
Hi.
Oh,
How are you doing?
There we go. Yeah, we're good, thanks. Hope you're well too. So, nightmare scenario, obviously missing this game. Now, I know that Eddie Jones isn't overly disappointed because it means they will top the group. They have a little bit of a rest this weekend going into the knockout stages. But for a fan, this is the nightmare scenario.
Yeah, it's not ideal. We spent obviously a lot of money, time, effort, planning coming over here. And yes, we feel there should be a plan B, move the game to tomorrow or the day before yesterday or maybe later in the week. But I suppose at the end of the day, people's safety is the main thing.
In terms of refunds, I read somewhere today that the refunds might not be issued for about a month.
We've been told November.
Yeah, we've had messages saying November. We're going to get refunds by.
Yeah, which is frustrating. So I'm sure that you guys have spent a lot of money on those tickets.
We think there should be.
Sorry?
I was going to say, it must be frustrating. So I'm sure you guys have spent a lot of money on the tickets, and to have to wait then over a month for the refunds must be really frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, it's £200 a ticket. It's a bit of a pain. You have to wait for getting the money back. And obviously, we don't even, as fans, we don't even get to see a game either. I mean, there's really no real logistical reason as to why they can't play a game behind closed doors.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to, I mean, I think we can hear the wind at the minute where you are. But how bad is it out there, really? Is it absolutely shocking or not?
At the minute, it's literally calm before the storm.
Right.
Today has been. We are about an hour and a half south of Tokyo in Hamamatsu, where the Australia game's going to be. And there is a little breeze, but nothing is really going to start until about this time tomorrow. And then they're forecasting 130 kilometre an hour winds, 8 inches of rain, and we just get the outskirts of it. Tokyo will be worse.
Well, look, we hope you have a great time. We're going to have to get ourselves to the news. Hope you have a good time over there, despite the super typhoon. And, of course, we're very sorry that you get to, unfortunately, miss the game, England-France, which has been called off because of the super typhoon. Richard Thompson there, England fan, thank you very much. There's some breaking news, actually, in regards to Scottish rugby.
Oh, well, sorry, no, I was just going to point out the Alberto Salazar Nike Oregon project one. There is some breaking news coming through. You're right about Scottish rugby, but we're just going to wait a second to get that confirmed because I'm not 100% sure exactly whether or not that's true. Potentially about the game being rescheduled for about 24 hours' time, but I think we're just going to wait to see if that's confirmed or not.
Indeed. We are going to be talking more about Salazar in the next hour because the Nike Oregon project is being closed down. 3 minutes to 9.
Love sport.
Every day someone dies waiting for a transplant. From spring 2020, the law around organ donation in England is changing to allow more people to pass on more organs to save more lives. Unless you choose to opt out or in an excluded group, all adults will be considered as a possible organ donor when they die. Whatever your choice, make it clear to your family and closest friends to ensure your decision is honoured. To find out more or for the choice to opt out, visit organdonation.nhs.uk. Pass it on.
Can you save money on your energy bills? Tony did, with help from a spokesmansaid.com. Getting people real savings.
I'm Tony from Northampton. My bills for gas and electricity had gone straight through the roof. I chose a Spokesman Said, and they saved me £2,800. It was so easy, I used them for my house and contents insurance too.
For help saving money on your energy bills, go to a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country. If you've ever had to get out of your car on the side of a motorway, you'll know how it feels. Just imagine what it's like to be working on a motorway. So please, drive carefully, follow the signs, stick to the speed limit, stay in the correct lane, and keep a safe distance from the car in front. People working on our roads are making them safe for all of us. Keep the roads safe for them. Highways England, connecting the country.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. We're here with you for another hour this week. Of course, Martin Bell and Johnny Sperling are up after us, so do stay tuned for that great show. We've got loads to come in the final hour. A conversation that I know producer Kieran is really excited about. Lisa and Chris Pittman, Taekwondo masters. Lisa and Chris teach girls as young as 3 how to punch. Have a surge of interest from parents. So we're going to be talking to them shortly about that. We'll, of course, touch on all the major stories that we've been touched on this morning. As always, get in touch, 0208 70 20 558, at Love Sport Radio on the socials, or look us up on YouTube.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 9, Brexit Secretary Stephen Barclay is meeting the EU's top negotiator Michel Barnier in Brussels. Yesterday, talks between the Prime Minister and his Irish counterpart ended on a positive note. They agreed they can see a pathway to a possible deal. Our chief political correspondent John Craig has been looking at what that might mean.
According to the Irish Times newspaper, the British side have made concessions on customs. Now, does that mean perhaps some sort of revival for the Irish backstop, perhaps a time limit or something like that, or even a customs border in the Irish Sea?
Climate change activists have blocked the main entrance to the BBC's HQ in central London. They're holding signs saying this is an emergency and plan it before profit. The daughter of British-Iranian hostage Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe has been flown back to the UK from Iran. Gabriella had been living with her parents in Tehran since her mum was arrested on spying charges, which she denies. There's been an explosion on an Iranian oil tanker off the coast of Saudi Arabia. Local media say it's caused an oil leak into the Red Sea. British plastic surgeons are considering a ban on the procedure known as a Brazilian butt lift. It involves fat being taken from another part of the body and injected into the bum. The operation has the highest death rate of all cosmetic surgery, but Reality TV star Abigail Clark says she was told about the risks before she went under the knife.
If you're going to go for a serious operation, that they tell you this can happen. You sign the papers, this is a dangerous thing. You have to be prepared with making yourself right before you put yourself in that situation.
And Scotland's boss Steve Clarke has called his side dreadful after losing their Euro 2020 qualifier against Russia 4-0. Northern Ireland were beaten 3-1 by the Netherlands and Wales drew 1-1 against Slovakia. That's the latest. I'm Kat Suave.
This is Love Sport.
There's even more to smile about with the Skoda Fabia this autumn, with 0% APR and £1,250 towards your finance deposit from £105 per month, £2,240 customer deposit required. Visit skoda.co.uk. With Solutions Personal Contract Plan, based on Fabia Hatch S 1 litre MPI 60 PS on a 48-month, 10,000 mile per annum agreement, with an optional final payment of £4,111. Order by January 1st, 2020. 18 and over, subject to status. T's and C's apply. Indemnities may be required. Skoda Financial Services.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Morning, Love Sport Breakfast, Love Sport Radio, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. You've got the pleasure of us for another hour, and we have the pleasure of you. The top stories this morning: Colleen and Rebecca Vardy, that continues very much on the front pages this morning, their feud. Lots more details emerging. Bulgaria fuming at England fears of racist chanting. Eddie Jones has no sympathy for Scotland's situation. Northern Ireland suffer late heartbreak in Holland as 2 injury time goals mean it's a 3-1 defeat for them. Scotland, on the other hand, were thrashed 4-0 by Russia. And Man United set to lose Chevrolet as a sponsor, worth £450 million. Chevrolet believing they spent too much on the sponsorship in the first place. And there's a couple of bits of breaking news as well. Nike Oregon project is set to close down after the Salazar controversy. We're going to be talking about that in more detail. We'll also be talking about Scotland Rugby, who are considering suing if their game is called off on Sunday. I am, of course, joined by Mr. Patrick Christys.
Hello, Rich.
Hello. How are we?
I'm good. I'm up for the weekend.
You ready, yeah?
Yes.
You look pumped.
Oh, I am.
Yeah? Nice weekend planned, out of interest?
I am going to be doing my favourite hobby, sleeping.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, exactly. Alberto Salazar and the Nike Oregon project.
Yeah, let's talk about this. So they're closing it down, which is huge news. Of course, everything that's happened over the last couple of weeks and the controversy surrounding Salazar, it does put a huge cloud over everybody that's been not only working under Salazar, but at the Oregon project?
Yeah, 100%. So just for those of you that don't know, the Nike Oregon project is Nike's flagship athletics program that has seen some of the world's top athletes, including Mo Farah, go and live and train in Oregon, obviously. And Alberto Salazar essentially founded this thing. And he has been banned for 4 years for drugs violations. Those include things like administering testosterone, intravenous drips, and transporting testosterone around the world, essentially, and other things as well. He even tested some performance-enhancing drugs on his own children, which is that's a bit weird, isn't it, really? So, yeah, in light of Salazar being banned for 4 years, Nike have decided to close the project. But yet again, they can't admit what's happening. So they issued a memo at Nike in the wake of Salazar getting banned, saying, completely unfounded allegations, this is total nonsense, can you believe this? It's like a witch hunt. And then they've shut it down now because Salazar's not there. And then they've gone, well, due to all of these unfounded allegations, it's a distraction for the athletes. So we're not going to... Oh, give us a break. Come on. They're shutting it down because there's obviously more to come out about this place.
So once it's shut down, does that mean that an investigation would stop?
Well, it's going to be more tricky, isn't it? Because this is the thing, is as long as it continues, then you would imagine that there's going to be, if it continues, right? And if Salazar's not there and none of their athletes are winning things or getting close and their times all drop off massively, then it looks even dodgier than it already is. Whereas if they close it, they can go, Well, this particular athlete is no longer anything to do with us. So the fact that they are now running half as quickly and for half as long as they were before is nothing to do with Nike.
You could just imagine the bosses going into the offices and like, look, guys, really sorry, we're going to have to close it down. And if you just do me a favour and shred everything.
Yeah.
Just any paper you see.
Yeah,
Nothing to worry about, just shred it.
Yeah, okay, can everyone... So just check this out, right? So the guy that that runs Nike's program, Nike, get this, chairman, president and CEO, Mark Parker. Can you imagine that board meeting? Right, okay, so now we come on to the urgent business of Mark Parker's pay rise. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Right, what about you, Mark? Yeah. What about you, Mark? Yeah. And you, Mark? Yeah. Okay, Mark gets a pay rise. Sweet. You just imagine him there going, right, okay, staff meeting, guys, 10 minutes in the car park. If you all come to me to the car park. Right, look, now due to these unfounded allegations, we are shutting down the Nike Oracle project. So none of you are employed here anymore. Okay? 1, 2, 3. just explodes. There we go. Right, so that's that.
We're going to have some fun today. We've got Henry here. We're going to call him Hammer Henry. He's got a big hammer. He's going to... So if you've got a computer, let's see how quickly he can smash it.
It looks like, in Batman, where like the Joker's walking out of the hospital with the detonator just down the street. Boom! There it goes. So the Nike Oregon project is no more.
And that's the end of that chapter.
We'll never hear about it again.
Kieran has something to say on this subject.
Well, not on this subject. No, I'm just going to end the fun there. All right.
What would you like to talk about, Kieran?
Well, there's another bit of breaking news this hour, and it's just recently broke, actually, and it is in reference to Scotland's game against Japan, which is, of course, meant to take place on Sunday in Tokyo. Now, what is happening, of course, is the typhoon is on the trajectory for that city, so they've cancelled England-France game, which is in the same stadium. Now, Scotland are aware that the clean-up operation might not be enough to get their game on in the same stadium 24 hours later. So, the chief executive of Scottish Rugby, Mark Dodson, says that they are preparing, or they're getting some legal advice to see if they can move their game back 24 hours. Because, of course, World Rugby's stance has been very firm and very clear and said there will be no kind of rearrangements. There will only be cancellations.
Does anyone else think that Typhoon Hagibis is quite a slow-moving typhoon? We've been talking about this for days, about Typhoon Hagibis now is about to thunder into it. It's 3 days later and it hasn't actually happened. Are we sure there's a typhoon?
Well, it's probably getting built up over sea and it takes its time. This happens.
You're supposed to be travelling at 180 miles an hour. Now I am...
The sea's massive.
It is pretty big. Although he's right, though. No, he is right. 100, I'm just doing the maths here. 180 miles an hour. Like
for 3 days.
In a day, it's going to travel like halfway around the world.
Yeah.
So
where is
that how it works, though? Is that how it works?
I don't know. Because the gusts are that quick, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's moving that quickly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our startling lack of knowledge about super typhoons is being laid bare to the nation now. But for me, I'll put it out there. I think Hagibis is an inside job.
I wish I knew how that was possible. I wish there was a way. Interestingly, I do feel a bit sorry. I know that Eddie Jones doesn't feel sorry at all for Scotland. I feel a little bit sorry for Scotland.
You have to feel a bit sorry for Scotland.
No, the rugby. Not just them as people. I feel a little bit sorry for Scotland because, of course, they lost to Ireland. That was always going to be a tough game, wasn't it? They beat Samoa very comfortably. They beat Russia brilliantly. So it's not like they've done... I know he sort of essentially touched on the fact that really they should have done a little bit better and then they might not be in this situation. But actually, credit to Japan. Of course, their incredible win over Ireland and then winning their other 2 games. They find themselves in this position. I just feel a little bit sorry for Scotland. I think there's not a great deal more they could have done. Ireland are very good.
Yeah, they certainly are. And, I suppose it's just the manner in which Scotland exited the 2015 tournament, by a try which the World Rugby basically came out and said it shouldn't have been given, and Australia went through. And what I love is that Scotland have been ambitious enough to now name their team to take the field against Japan on Sunday. So what they're saying is, we're taking legal advice. Here's our team. we're playing this match.
We're going to turn up.
And I would not argue with angry Scotsman.
Yeah.
It is a crazy. I guess if you're you're a fan of Scottish rugby, you'd be quite pleased at the fact that they're taking these actions, that they're not just allowing it to take place. Because if anything, I do wonder then if you're on the board making decisions as to whether this game goes ahead, this will have a little bit of an impact. You know just how fiercely they need it to go ahead. Whereas it could have been an easy thing just to be like, okay, is it going ahead? No, it's like, oh, okay, well, look, not our fault, type. Whereas actually they are making quite a stance.
Yeah, they are, and I think they have to for a few reasons, which is that there are potentially jobs and livelihoods at stake here, which is, the fact that obviously if players are approaching retirement, for example, or then this was potentially the last chance to ever play a World Cup, and it's a sickening way for it to end. It's even more unfair than the time that Frank Lampard scored against the Germans and the referee decided that he wanted to be a German for the day, and that was sickening, as you well know, Rich. You and I were screaming at the television when that happened.
We were,
punched
indeed.
a hole through it. But yeah, the fact is though that Japan is it's not the biggest country in the world, but it's not tiny either. There are venues where this game could be played. The super typhoon, if indeed it exists, is going to blow over. That's what typhoons do. And so they could actually rearrange this game. And the idea that a lot of players who've worked for 4 years to get to a position where they're being picked for a World Cup squad to play in it, and they have a chance potentially of going through into the quarterfinals, then the idea that could be taken away for them by the fact that World Rugby have decided to play an international tournament in typhoon season in a country where they get typhoons must be a little bit harsh, really.
Here's just one to put out there, just so I'm right in my thinking here. Of course, if the game is called off, Japan will by default win the group, I believe, because the 2 points they will be given. Not necessarily Ireland could potentially
Ireland
still
could overtake them,
if they get the bonus point. So, but of course it does guarantee that Ireland go through. Of course, if the game is played and Scotland win, there is a chance that Ireland and Scotland go through, and Japan, the host nation, are knocked out.
So you are putting 2 and 2 together.
Well, I'm just saying it would be quite nice for the home nation to be through.
Yeah.
Well, but not that we want that to happen. But I could imagine, what it's like in a World Cup when the host nation is still there in the semi-final. They're all going. We know they're not going to win it because they're normally not very good.
I'm not sure, but they'll get one of New Zealand and South Africa, I think.
In the next,
which is a massive game for them, and obviously if they get South Africa, that harks back to 2015 when Japan beat South Africa. The stadium atmosphere would be unbelievable. So, yeah, it's a nice story if Japan go through for sure.
But I'm sure those that make the decision be completely independent.
Oh yeah,
so
totally
it's a non-starter.
impartial.
Do you reckon at the next Rugby World Cup, of course, in Scotland, the Japanese are going to arrive and they're just going to go, gosh, you know what? They've obviously just had a typhoon here. They've just had a typhoon. The destruction, the devastation, the misery of the place. This reminds us of the aftermath of Hagibis, doesn't it? Oh, fair play to the Scots for just carrying on and keeping their head up.
Well, I just want to run through that Scotland team that will definitely play some rugby, either on Sunday or Monday. We have Hogg, Seymour, Harris, Johnson, Graham, Russell, Laidlaw, Dell, Brown, Nell, Gilchrist, Gray, Bradbury, Ritchie and Thompson.
And Hagibis.
It's a strong team.
Yes, it is a strong side. Look, I think they're going to end up doing what, when you used to go and play like schoolboy football and it'd be like in February and the pitch is frozen. There's always one team that wants to play and one that doesn't. That's going to be the Scots in this case, isn't it? They're going to be out there with like sunglasses on, just looking at the pitch, which is underwater, just going, it's playable.
It's fine.
I can play.
You can play.
Yeah.
9:15.
This is Love Sport.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident. And save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel and oil. Highways England, connecting the country. Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realize that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country. If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle, or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
Believe me, he who laughs last thinks slowest. Ha ha ha, see, that was a laugh because I'm clever enough.
This is Love Sport.
Lots for breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you for another 45 minutes or so. Now, there's an interesting story that we're going to talk about. Got a very interesting guest on the line. So, a Taekwondo master says she's had a surge in applications for her training from parents of 3-year-old girls, keen for them to learn self-belief and self-defence. Lisa Pittman, 45, a triple Guinness World Record holder, is one of a handful of UK female masters in Taekwondo and a black belt YouTube sensation who can smash 1,000 roof tiles in about 80 seconds. She's now teaching girls aged 3 to 7 how to punch through wooden boards, but also how to speak out and tell strangers to back off. And guess who we've got on the line? Lisa and Chris Pittman, Taekwondo masters, are on the line now. Morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm terrified.
You're lucky you're not a roof tile.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was that? Go on, tell me, what was it? 80 in 60 seconds, was it?
Well, no. So my husband and I both hold Guinness World Records for smashing 1,000 roof tiles. So I did it in 84 seconds, and my husband did it in 51 seconds.
How, so just before, look, there's a lot to go into here, but I'm obviously just fascinated by this element of it. So how do you get 1,000 roof tiles done in 80-odd seconds or 50-odd seconds in your case? What's the technique, like, as in terms of, do you stack them high?
So going back to the self-belief, me and my husband decided that we wanted to break a Guinness World Record, and it really is through determination, self-belief, and other records were already held, and we just decided it was something we wanted to do. And actually, it took me 3 attempts, so it was more than 1,000 tiles in the end. And it took my husband 2 attempts. But it is a massive thing. And actually, my husband broke his on Blue Peter, so we have Blue Peter badges, which is amazing. And I broke mine on BBC Breakfast TV, so it was good.
Amazing. Well, look, I want to talk to you. I know it says here about punching through wooden board. We actually did something in a previous life when I played football. We had a bit of a psychological session where it was breaking through barriers, and I'll always remember before we went out to train, a guy that came in was very, very good, very powerful, kind of got you in the right mindset, got you pumped up. He actually got us to walk over hot coals first, which we did, which was great. And then after that, it was, right, what is it you need to get through? What belief do you need to break in order to get through to the next level? And if I remember rightly, we wrote it on the board, and it was then performing the technique to break through that wooden board. And it was, I mean, it was great. Like, everyone was so pumped up afterwards. We went out and trained, and I think everyone ended up injuring each other. We were so pumped up, but it was great. But is that the kind of thing that you do with some of these young girls?
Absolutely. People don't realise that, children have a lot of frustrations in life as well, and no one really knows what goes on in their heads. And it could be that they're being bullied at school, could be that they're actually being bullied at home. You never actually know. And it's just getting them to believe in themselves, speak out, because, definitely sort of in my day, it's very much children should be seen and not heard, when actually I think it's very important, within reason, that children actually say, do you know what, that was wrong, I shouldn't have been treated that way, and I'm not going to put up with it. And to just get these young girls believing in themselves. And I've actually been teaching children, young girls, for many years, and I've got girls that were training from the age of sort of 3-4 years old, and they're now in their 20s, and they are just the most incredible people I've ever met in my life, just because they've gone through life not putting up with some of the rubbish that people do have to put up with. So I think it makes a difference in their life.
No, definitely. I've always said like that. There's just this kind of frothing hypocrite in me that's like, if I had a son, I think it'd get to like 16 or 17. I'd be like, oh yeah, you can go out, you know. And if I had a daughter, I'd be so terrified that I think I'd be a terrible dad, because I'd be like, no, you're not leaving. You're never leaving.
Yeah, no, I've said it many times. I'm exactly the same. Yeah.
Exactly.
So my husband's got 2 boys, and we always said, like, if we'd had a child together and it was a girl, it would, she'd never be allowed out.
Yeah, exactly.
I believe she would have been the most confident person ever, And it is about speaking out, because you can't always avoid situations happening. But it's just people actually standing their ground and saying, no, that is wrong, And I was sort of reading in the newspaper about, sort of the underground and places like that, and the amount of, some abuse going on, etc. And it's about people saying, no, you're not doing that to me, and I'm not putting up with it.
Definitely.
So it's so important.
Yeah, I suppose in the modern world, kids getting more exposed to adult life a bit quicker, therefore needing self-discipline. Is that why you think you've had such a surge in interest?
I think so, yeah. It has been, recently more so sort of, younger girls coming in. And I think it is that situation of parents saying, my gosh, my daughter has got to go out on the streets one day. And they do. They have to let go. And, it's not 100% that you can defend yourself, but it just gives you that air of confidence to know that if you need to, it's there for you. But also as well, it's using the mind. It's avoiding trouble, getting out of situations, keeping focused in life, rather than, coming training, doing their taekwondo training, rather than being out on the streets, hanging around, getting into trouble. Keeping out of trouble is the most important message, I would say.
And I guess, touched on the fact there, it's as much psychological as it is physical. What reaction have you had from the young girls themselves?
Absolutely amazing. I mean, they always shock me, because you get the most daintiest girls coming along, and you think, oh my goodness, how am I going to get this person out of their shell? And within weeks, they're sort of actually speaking, coming out of themselves and believing in themselves and smashing through those boards, and it's absolutely brilliant to see. And then the parents come to me and say, oh my goodness, my daughter is like a new person. She's standing up for herself and standing up for her rights.
Right, I think it's incredible. I think as well, like, the kind of window that it opens in the mind of these kids, because that's something I never learned any kind of self-defense when I was younger, and that's why I keep getting punched in the face, to be honest with you. But it's that and my rather grating personality. But like, this is it. I kind of wish that I had done, though. But I think the big question, Lisa and Chris, is who would win in a fight between the two of you?
Oh,
well, I can run faster than
Amazing.
And I got half a chance.
do you know what? That's really funny, because I was teaching last night, and one of the little girls said, I think you're stronger than my dad.
Oh, really?
There's only one way to find out.
It's on. It's on. I have to ask. Are there any more Guinness World Record attempts planned?
Oh, there is. So me and Chris, we actually hold 5 Guinness World Records between us. So the other one we did last year, which was breaking pine boards. So that's actually on YouTube, has 30-odd million views.
Wow.
And so Chris broke 315 one-inch pine boards in a minute, and I broke 230 pine boards in a minute. And then we are doing a couples world record next year at a supercar event.
Oh, okay. All right. We have to get you in here sometime to get you to try and break one on air.
That would be brilliant.
You can see how many interns you can work your way through in half an hour.
Great stuff. Lisa, Chris, we'll let you crack on with your day. Really appreciate having you on.
Awesome.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Great stuff. Lisa and Chris Pittman, Taekwondo masters. That's a great story.
Just see Nick's face outside just drop.
Yeah, you just run. He's gone.
Yeah, Nick's gone. Nick's legged it, everyone.
Have you ever thought about taking on a world record attempt?
I have, actually.
Have you?
I have. Because there's one involving Ferrero Rocher that seemed eminently gettable.
Go on.
It's something like 5 in a minute, which I'm pretty sure I'd do for fun.
No, that can't be true.
Yeah, I'll go and check it. But yeah, either way. It might be 5 in 30 seconds. But either way, I smash the backside off that.
I think you could. So that's actually one you have considered?
I have seriously considered it, yeah.
Okay.
If anyone's got any world record attempts that they'd particularly like me to go for, then 0208 70 20 558. If anyone says sponsored silence, and I'll nut you.
Maybe like the number of sarcastic comments you can make in a minute.
No.
We could literally do a whole segment on Guinness World Record attempts by Patrick Christys. Like, there's got to be like audible ones that can be done over the radio.
The obvious one, there'd be a lot of eating-related ones, I guess, that we could talk.
Sorry, hang on a second. That obvious one.
Well, I don't want to say it on air, but for obvious reasons,
Carry on.
So, I mean, look, that's kind of one idea. We could actually, that's one. If we were to have, and I love that, the whole breaking through the block, breaking through a belief, something that's not quite right. You need to break through it. Again, could be eating related in your case, for obvious reasons. Maybe we could do that on air, like you break through a block.
Yeah, we could do. We could get the bloke who has to come in every single day to fix our TV because we keep smashing it at the door.
The amount of TVs
see how
we've
many
got through.
tellies we can break in a week.
We could simply buy a doorstop and stop this at source, but no.
For our listeners' benefit, there's obviously a door to the studio, and immediately behind the door, we saw fit to put a flat screen television. The issue was that we didn't have a doorstop, and we still don't, actually.
No.
Still don't have a doorstop. So that TV is just in bits now.
Every day someone walks in and smashes a new TV.
Oh, to smithereens.
Yeah, and then we look at them disappointedly as if they should know that there's a TV behind the door.
It's good out, actually, because the other day an episode of Anne Robinson's Weakest Link came on, and you just couldn't see her face at all.
28 minutes past 9.
Love sport. If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit wedooh.com. We Do. The smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
I'm Leslie from North Essex. I couldn't believe that after 5 minutes I'd saved over £900 on my energy bills. When my car insurance was then due for renewal, I went back to a spokesman said and reduced my premium by over £500. I thought that my home insurance was expensive. When I shopped around on a spokesman said, I saved a staggering £1,100. I've saved £2,500. I cannot believe it was that easy.
A spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. This means that travelling to the EU will change. You'll need to check online if your passport is valid for travel to Europe. If you're planning on driving, you'll need to check if you have the right documents to drive. And make sure your travel insurance covers all your healthcare needs. To keep your trip on track, check what you need to do at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
If you've ever had to get out of your car on the side of a motorway, you'll know how it feels. Just imagine what it's like to be working on a motorway. So please, drive carefully, follow the signs, stick to the speed limit, stay in the correct lane, and keep a safe distance from the car in front. People working on our roads are making them safe for all of us. Keep the roads safe for them. Highways England, connecting the country.
Love sport.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. We're here with you for another half an hour or so, and it promises to be an exciting and interesting half an hour. We're going to be talking about some of the results from last night. Of course, the Northern Irish went down to Holland, but looked for a time like they were going to get a result, and certainly with 15 minutes to go, they were 1-0 up. In fact, with 10 minutes to go, they were 1-0 up. Had they have got a result, it would have had an impact, of course, on the table. It's now a little bit tougher for them, but still, they're making a really good fist of this.
I really like this Northern Ireland team, and I like the way that they go about their business, because they obviously have limited resources at their disposal, but they do the best with what they've got, don't they? And I just really like the way that they play, and it was fantastic to watch them push one of the best sides in the world so close last night, but you just felt bad for them at the end. Memphis Depay is not the same footballer. Has he got a brother, do you reckon? Because he is not the same bloke that was, driving Lamborghinis and giving an absolutely terrible account of himself on the Theatre of Dreams at Old Trafford. He stepped up. He got braced last night. Good effort.
Well, look, we're going to be speaking about that. Delighted to say we've got Stephen Beacom, Northern Ireland football writer, on the line. Morning, Stephen.
Hi guys, how are we?
Good, thanks. We've seen the highlights. Obviously, haven't seen the full game, but certainly looked like they put in another good display. And I felt sorry for them. Of course, going ahead, the equaliser. It was a second goal, though. There was an element of luck. The ball could have gone anywhere, and of course, landed where it did. They got the second goal, and that was pretty much that. But they're making a really good fist of it, these qualifiers.
Well, they are, and Northern Ireland actually have been a force in international football for the last 3-4 campaigns, and it's all down to Michael O'Neill, the manager, who sets the team up brilliantly. And to be honest, boys, Holland are considered one of the favourites to win Euro 2020, and certainly one of the favourites to win the next World Cup. But Northern Ireland made them look ordinary last night with O'Neill's tactics. They were flat, they were slow-paced, and they lacked direction up front. The only player who looked as if he was a class player was Van Dijk, but everyone knows how good he is anyway. But otherwise, Northern Ireland, they did a job on Holland. The midfield kept their midfield quiet, and I have to say players like Corey Evans and George Saville, who don't even play for their clubs that often in the Championship, were brilliant against people like Wijnaldum and Frankie de Jong, and Northern Ireland can consider themselves unlucky to lose. I think ultimately it came down to tired limbs, tired minds, because they put so much into the game and they lost those 2 late goals in injury time, and it was unfortunate for them, devastating as well, because it means Northern Ireland aren't going to make it through the group stages now to the Euro finals. They're going to have to rely on the playoffs, and as we all know, those are a lottery.
No, they are. Well, this is it. You mentioned man for man. If you were to put them up against the Dutch squad, they're not in the same league. I know that's harsh, but it's true. You've got, like say, certain Championship players, but collectively they're very good. You touched on the fact that tactically he's very good. What exactly did he do last night? Because Holland, they are resurgent. They've had their tough times, but certainly going into 2020, they will be one of the favourites. You're right. So what did he do tactically to hold them for so long?
Well, O'Neill's game plan was to go in and smother them and not give them any space whatsoever. He had Corey Evans taking out Frankie de Jong. He had Stephen Davis playing neat passes, so Northern Ireland tried to keep as much possession as possible whenever they had the ball, and that was limited. But and defensively, you had Johnny Evans and Craig Cathcart, who are probably 2 of the most underrated defenders in the Premier League, doing a fantastic job as well. And O'Neill, he's a master at this. Against Germany last month, he actually went toe-to-toe with the Germans, and it was fascinating to watch, because normally Northern Ireland are a backs-to-the-wall team whenever they take on superpowers, but he decided, we're just going to go for this. And again, with a bit more of a clinical edge, Northern Ireland could have won that game. It'll be really disappointing for O'Neill that his game plan worked perfectly up until the 80th minute. He knew that Northern Ireland would get a chance. At Keyham, Josh McGuinness took it, but then it all fell apart in the last 10 minutes on injury time. So that will have been devastating to him, because he takes great pride in what he does tactically. And to be frank, boys, Northern Ireland are lucky to still have Michael O'Neill, because we are amazed that he hasn't gone into the Premier League over the past few years.
Well, on that note, because it seems like he's instilled a club-like mentality in the Northern Irish setup. I mean, they've still got the 2 games left, of course, against the Netherlands at home, Germany away. How do you see those playing out?
Well, I think the game against the Netherlands, Northern Ireland have a shot. Going away from home against Germany is going to be incredibly difficult, because it'll be party atmosphere there. It'll be their last game of the campaign. They'll have qualified, and they'll just want to turn on the style. But listen, with Michael O'Neill, I never rule anything out, really. He's done a wonderful, wonderful job. And you talk about the club mentality. One of the big factors behind Northern Ireland's resurgence in recent years is O'Neill's relationship with his players. He keeps in constant touch with them throughout, the season, even whenever Northern Ireland aren't playing games, even if they've got a 3-month break. And that is key, because everyone is in it together. There's a real family vibe about Northern Ireland when they join up. They're all mates, which helps in international football, believe me. You guys will know from England times years ago that if you have a fractured squad, you don't get results. Northern Ireland are all in it together, and they are punching above their weight. Last night, Northern Ireland brought on 2 players from League One, from Jordan Thompson from Blackpool and Tom Flanagan from Sunderland. So we don't have the quality players that other nations have, but we have a spirit. We have a fantastic manager who's very tactically aware, and we have players who give everything once they step out onto the pitch. So come the playoffs, Northern Ireland are going to be a tough nut to crack. They're going to be a team that the others will want to avoid. And also the atmosphere at Windsor Park, if you're ever there, boys, it is purely electric. It's like old-style football, and it is a joy to behold whenever the Northern Ireland fans get going. So I think Northern Ireland have got a great chance in the playoffs, and hopefully we can learn from the mistakes from the last two group games against Germany and Holland, when unfortunately the team just didn't see it out.
Well, lastly, just want to touch on, because you mentioned how well they're doing, and you look at the likes of Wales, who have struggled. Scotland, certainly at the moment, are going through a really tough time. What's the difference? Is it something to do...
Rugby's not great for them either, is it?
Rugby's not brilliant at the moment either. So what is it, though? Is it something... So I'll always look at the setup, and we talk about Germany a lot, about when they were in the doldrums, and like this 10-year plan that they put in place in order to get themselves back to the very top of the game. What is it that Northern Ireland are doing lower down? Or is it the case that he is just simply getting the best out of the players at his disposal?
Well, Scotland actually wanted to take Michael O'Neill, and they offered him a lot of money to go. Thankfully, O'Neill signed a new contract with Northern Ireland to stay. This was after Gordon Strachan had left for Scotland. They've had a few managers since. So O'Neill's a big factor, but also momentum and confidence is huge in sport, and it's huge for this Northern Ireland team. Since they qualified for the Euro 2016 finals, they got a taste of the big time, and they don't want to let that go. There's a determination in the ranks, there's a desire, and there's a belief that they can compete now at this level. And I don't think Scotland have that. I don't know where it's gone for Wales, I have to be honest, because Wales qualified for Euro 2016 and almost reached the final. Maybe it is down to managers, maybe it's down to the desire of the players, you know. But I think Scotland and Wales will have to improve their results. Listen, Northern Ireland aren't going to qualify for the group stages, aren't going to qualify through the group either. So we have to work on that, there's no question. But I think Northern Ireland can make it through the playoffs, and that will be the aim for Michael O'Neill now.
Great stuff. Stephen, really appreciate you joining us. Stephen Beacom there, Northern Ireland football writer, giving us the latest on Northern Ireland. So unlucky last night to go down to Holland. 2 injury time goals meant they lost 3-1. We can hear from Michael O'Neill very shortly because the audio isn't quite ready, but it will be
Michael
any
O'Neill.
second
Woohoo!
now.
Come on, Mikey.
Now, Michael O'Neill,
At one point we were going to get out with 3 points, then possibly we were going to get out with 1 point. But we come away with nothing. You know, the 2 goals in stoppage time are very harsh on us. And you know, at the end of the day, we just couldn't hold on. A lot of fatigue the last few minutes, which is understandable. They had a lot of good options to bring into the game from their bench, and you know, we don't have that scenario for ourselves, and it was harsh on us because I think we deserved to take something tonight.
You must have been very pleased, though, that your game plan seemed to work perfectly. You kept them at bay for so long and then hit them with the goal.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't, particularly in the first half, they didn't cause any problems at all. Bailey had very little to do. We struggled ourselves to impose ourselves in the first half. We could have been better in possession. We could have been better from retaining the ball from throw-ins as well. But second half, again, we defended great, but we had a little bit more play and a little bit more territory in their half, and we get the chance to go ahead, which we take. But ultimately, in the end, we just couldn't hold on.
So smooth how we just moved straight into that.
Seamless.
On a serious note, Michael O'Neill, he has done a brilliant job there. And I think, as Stephen said, it is interesting and whether he perhaps gets the credit that he deserves. And I guess, because we're talking about Southgate, right? Southgate, who struggled before he went in as England manager, struggled at Middlesbrough, and yet now we talk about him. If he were to come into the Premier League, he'd go into the top 6. Michael O'Neill's done a brilliant job with Northern Ireland. Does he come into the Premier League?
Yeah, but is there an argument that it's easier to make a bad team hard to beat than it is to turn a bad team into an attacking force? Because Gareth Southgate has turned England into a team that actually poses a threat, as opposed to before, where we were basically the impotence of football. And whereas with Michael O'Neill, there in Northern Ireland, he's just basically gone, right, let's try and make us hard to beat, and hopefully we'll nick a goal or two. So I don't see how that cuts it in the Premier League unless Stoke get promoted back up.
Interesting point. What do you guys think? 0208 70 20 558. We're going to do a roundup of everything that's going on in the world of sport next.
Giving your team a voice. Love Sport Radio.
Are you paying way too much for your energy bills? A spokesman said could help you save big money. With electricity costs continuing to rise, you could save hundreds of pounds by shopping around. Just go to a spokesmansaid.com and look for the very best value energy deals on the market. Don't waste your hard-earned cash. You could be on a much cheaper deal. Go to aspokesmansaid.com.
Fighting for you, saving you money.
You all right, mate? Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident. And save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country. Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
Monday is a truly awful way to spend 1/7 of your life, I guarantee it.
This is Love Sport.
Lost for breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys are with you until 10 a.m. Then it's the brilliant Martin Bell and Johnny Sperling who will be up straight after us. And of course, we will be back on Monday, although I do believe, are you doing anything over the weekend?
I'm sleeping.
Sleeping, you're not in. Okay, I'll be in on Sunday, so you can join me on Sunday, of course. But we are back Monday to Friday next week, so of course, do tune in for that. Kieran Wellington is with us for the last section of our show.
I was just going to say, you're in on Sunday, and who are you being produced by?
The one, the only...
Tom Betts.
No, it's Kieran.
No, it's me.
It's Kieran.
Yeah, so just thought I'd point that out.
Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Let's do some stories.
Woo! All right. So, Chris Silverwood had his press conference.
Okay.
First time he's been in front of the press since he was appointed England cricket head coach. Now, annoyingly, he was asked a lot about Ben Stokes.
He's got his work cut out already, hasn't he, with Mr. Stokes?
First day on the job. Hi, Ben. Sorry about this. Just to call you, just introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Chris. Did you punch your wife in the face outside an awards do? No? Good. Good enough for me.
So, Silverwood has said about that incident, I've spoken to him, and as far as I'm concerned, all the questions have been asked. It's done. I wasn't there. I'm happy with what I've been told. It's a lesson for everybody, which is interesting. You've got to be careful because innocent things can be taken out of context, which is true, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, I fully agree.
Well, yeah, although, to be fair, I've never grabbed my missus by the throat or face in public.
No.
So I mean, it's one of those things. You can play fight, but that's the thing. Like, if you are going to play fight with your spouse, and one of you is Ben Stokes, who is a man mountain of a bloke, maybe just do it at home. You know what I mean?
The other thing to this is, and here you go, a little psychological one, communication isn't what's said, it's what's received. So like when I'm giving Patrick a compliment and say, like, you're really powerful, you've got a lot of dormant, relaxed muscle, that's a compliment. And yet I know that he's taken that in a negative fashion.
Yeah.
Why would you take it,
Well, because actually, Rich, what you're doing there is saying that I'm like a tub full of lard, and that if I jump and down, the base of my belly sometimes hits me in the bridge of the nose. That's what you're saying.
So what I am saying also is that potentially you could be great. Kieran.
Do you want to know
I'd love to.
The text that Chris Silverwood sent on recognition of getting the job? So Ashley Giles sent him the text. You've got the job, Chris.
Please tell me whatever text he sent had to be followed by the follow-up text of, so sorry, meant to send that to my wife.
I'm guessing that didn't happen. Yes, tell me the text.
Wow.
That was it.
That was it. You've just been appointed the head coach of your national side, and you come up with 3 letters.
Wow. Regards, Chris.
Yeah.
he strikes me as that sort of bloke, to be honest. Yeah, just a bit he's just underwhelming me already, to be honest.
Is he
I've
like
not
the
even seen him coach.
Kiss, kiss.
Yeah, is he like the human equivalent of the occasional table? Like going kind of carpet shopping with your missus on a Sunday. Is that who he is? If he was a colour, he'd be beige.
Well, Kieran knows a lot more about Mr. Silverwood than I guess we do. As a character,
Yeah, I mean, Northern, so Yorkshireman.
Oh, that'll be it. That'll be it. Right. So whenever anyone from Yorkshire, something amazing happens to them, they have to react in the most downbeat way possible.
Yeah.
So the more amazing a situation that happens for a Yorkshireman, the more miserable they are.
Right.
And vice versa. So if a Yorkshireman's house has just burned down, it's like, hey, well, never mind, off to the pub, hey. But if a Yorkshireman just gets made, a head coach at England cricket, well, if I have to.
Literally.
That's basically it.
It's the way they spread their emotion.
Yeah.
And, they really do assert themselves on the situation.
And I suppose Andy Murray, when he's excited, that's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. You can see it written all over my face. Yeah.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, so basically what they're saying about Chris Silverwood is that the total cricket style route fostered under Trevor Bayliss, we were a lot more attacking with our fields, we picked a lot more attacking players, batting and bowling, Jason Roy got
bowled out for 40 odd by the Irish.
Yeah, we did, but we also bowled them out for, what was it, like 12 and a half or something?
Yeah, fair.
So, there's that, but it's basically consigned to the history books now. Trevor Bayliss' era, as much as this appointment is from within Trevor Bayliss' setup, Chris Silverwood himself is going to lead the troops very differently. So I can't expect to see Jason Roy back in Whites very soon. And Chris Silverwood said, some cogs will turn faster than others. I mean, when you start making an analogy about cogs, I mean, just switch off, do you?
Yeah. I must say, he is not the most inspiring choice, but results are all that matter. And we'll have to obviously give him a bit of time. But I kind of want someone who's a bit more galvanising and, I don't know, emotional.
Yeah, well, let me continue with the quote. I saw exactly the same during my time at Essex, which, in fairness, he won their county championship for the first time in quarter of a century. It may be that we have to give people time to find their feet, but we're respectful of that, and it's up to me to create the environment where they can get it wrong a few times, as long as they're learning things that add to their game. And I think that was what the problem was with Jason Roy. I think Trevor Bayliss was too hands-off a little bit and allowed people to express themselves, which worked wonderfully for the ODI team because they were able to play all their elaborate strokes and they really asserted themselves on the opposition. But in the Test team, you kind of, not the opposite of that, but you need a little bit more direction. You need to see there's a natural progression in the game because Test cricket, it's not like, I feel like the analogy isn't there between playing club football and playing international football. As much as the standard is better in international football, there's a certain style of playing international football. But in cricket, it's just better. Like you just have to be better than facing county championship bowlers. I don't know.
Is that fair to say that football is effectively, it can be a completely different game? So as we see, a Burnley play a completely different style of football to a Man City. But then when you go with the national team, you might play a blend of the two. Whereas with cricket, it's just the same but better.
Yeah, although, you can be more attacking, more defensive with your fields and stuff like that. There is a tactical element to it, but just not as much because it's not as dynamic as in football, I guess. Right. So it is more about the individual skills on show, I think, in cricket, which is what makes it such an interesting blend of a team sport, and your captain needs to lead from the front, but also individually you need everyone to perform. So he said he's given a nod to Dom Sibley, who scored the most runs for Warwickshire in the county championship last season. It could be Dom coming in at the top of the order, and we've got to make sure a guy who's going to be feeling the pressure anyway is given a chance. Hopefully what we'll find is the runs that he's been scoring he brings to Test cricket, then all of a sudden the process starts. So I think what he's trying to do is to reduce that gap between, Jason Roy, it felt like such a leap because what he was being asked to do essentially was something quite different. From him being in the middle order at Surrey, he was moved up to the top of the order for England. I think what we're trying to do now is pick a little bit more horses for courses and say, look, go and try and play your game that you do for Warwickshire or whoever and do it well. And I suppose sometimes a simple game plan is often the best. So, yeah, it's an interesting appointment. Like we've said, underwhelming, but we shall see.
What else is going on in the back pages?
Well, we have an interesting story about Wolves, actually, which I mentioned to you before the show.
Yes, you did.
And Wolves chairman Jeff Shee has admitted the club's owners are seeking new investment. And I'd be a bit worried if I was reading this as a Wolves fan, because the Chinese group, Fosun International, bought the then Championship club in 2016 for £45 million. But Fosun faces £1 billion losses after the collapse of Thomas Cook. Now, we know how heavy their investment's been in Wolves, and we know it's been very clever investment, and, you know, they've spent quite a bit of money, considering they were a championship club 3 years ago. So, you know, she has told China Global Television Network, we welcome any new partnership, new funding. Wolves has said it won't affect how the club's being run, you know, facing these £1 billion losses, but the fact that they're welcoming a new partnership kind of rings faint alarm bells for me.
Possibly. I mean, look, we don't know whether that was the case prior to Thomas Cook going under. It might have been the case. This has always been their strategy. They're always looking for additional partners, additional investors. You would think that Wolves will be cordoned off to an extent, and of course, look, the strategy's been brilliant. I know they utilise obviously super agent, don't they, George Mendes in a big way, and it's been really successful to this point. So, look, of course, if you've got a business and you just had £1 billion hit on the back of something like Thomas Cook going under, it's going to impact you to an extent. But I've just got a feeling they'd have cordoned off the Wolves project to be its own thing.
Yeah, hopefully, and I hope that for Wolves fans because they play fantastic football. So they've obviously got the Portuguese influence, and Spurs have obviously got their Argentinian influence. Now, a scouting mission hints that Poch will stay.
Okay.
Because they have sent their chief scout, Steve Hitchen, to Argentina during this international break, which apparently is an indication that they want to keep Pochettino because he already has the likes of Eric Lamela, Paulo Gazzaniga, Lo Celso and Juan Foyth at the club. So they're thinking that by sending Steve Hitchen out to Argentina, which is, of course, Pochettino's home country, that it basically says that Pochettino, it's all in place and it's all still running as it should be. So, you know, nothing to worry about for Spurs fans.
Which will please Spurs fans, you would think. Although he is still, looking at the odds, he is still, himself and Marco Silva are still the favourites for the sack. And, of course, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer are up there as well. I don't know. I mean, look, it's...
Spurs have been poor, but it feels more like a blip to me. Like, they did beat Palace 4-0.
No, true. It's an elongated.
In that
do you know what? A lot's made of the amount of games they've lost over the last 30-odd games or whatever. Is it 17 and 36 or something like that? But
it's a lot.
It's a lot. But actually, last season, the point was they didn't draw any games. I think they drew one or maybe two.
In the league,
I think it was two in the league out of, 38 games. So, of course, they've lost a high number of games, as high as teams that have finished 13th, 14th. However, they've won as many as, not far off Man City or Liverpool. So I don't think there's too much to worry about. The way in which they play means they're not going to draw that many games of football. So... I do agree. I think it's more behind the scenes. Obviously, culturally, there's something not quite right. Whether there's a couple of bad eggs in the changing room.
Well, I just think Ali and Eriksson made such a big impact when they kind of burst onto the scene in that front three with Harry Kane. I just think that triumvirate is not clicking because of the injuries to Dele Alli and the kind of... I mean, Eriksson is basically in a Madrid shirt already. Like, he's essentially just at home, just peeling off the Tottenham badge, putting a Real Madrid badge on.
The problem with that, of course, as well, if you put yourself...
That looks good. Just viewing himself in the mirror.
Trying it on every night. No, but the problem with that, of course, look, there's a good chance that's done behind the scenes. There's a great chance that it's done, and as of June 1st, he will be signing for Real Madrid. But, of course, imagine, put yourself in Eriksson's shoes. If that's been done behind the scenes and no one knows about it, how is he going to be between now and then? He's essentially going to make sure he doesn't get injured. It's as simple as that. How are his performances going to be?
And don't get fat like Eden Hazard.
Or like my co-presenter.
Don't talk about Kieran that way.
No, sorry.
He's right here.
No, he is. Sorry, Kieran.
Yeah, it's okay. Forgive me. Yeah. Everton striker Moise Keane and Tottenham youngster Troy Parrott were both sent off yesterday in an altercation.
Parrott Keane?
Carry on.
Oh, it's been a long week. It's been a long week.
So this was an under-21 Euro 2021 qualifying match last night.
Yep.
Republic of Ireland were playing Italy. Now, Troy Parrott just decided to shove Moise Keane.
As you do.
Who got a second yellow.
Yeah.
And then Moise Keane shoved him back and got a straight red.
Doesn't seem quite fair.
No.
I would need to see the incident, of course.
The Daily Mail have gone for who saw a straight red for an even firmer shove. Like, well, hey, come on now.
If you had to grade a shove.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, bets on, just because we've not got long left. How long, or if at all, actually, over this weekend, do you reckon it's going to emerge that Rebecca Vardy has been dishing the dirt on any other footballing superstars?
It'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah. If it turns out she's like the mole.
She's like the ringleader of something, of a huge organisation, a criminal organisation.
I feel like she's put so much effort into the Colleen thing, and she knows Colleen's like head of the wags.
Mm.
You know, Rebecca's gone for the top straight away. I don't think she's bothered
ruined.
with
She's
any of
ruined Jamie Vardy's social life. This woman.
Yeah.
Because he can't go anywhere now. They're never going to get invited to anything. Oh, watch out! Yeah, it's like the KGB's just rocked up, isn't it?
I stick by I think there's a major twist here. I think there's a major twist at some point. I think it's not all as it seems, and I think it'll all be revealed over the next couple of weeks.
I reckon Jamie might reveal something about Wayne. And then Wayne will reveal something about Jamie, and then in the end, we're just going to have to fight.
Well, I'm looking forward to the inevitable FA Cup third round draw of Derby at home to Leicester.
Oh, yes!
Wouldn't that be great?
Oh.
And one of Waz's first games in the Derby shirt is to line up against Jamie Vardy.
That would be sensational.
Well, on that note, how did I know we were finished on that note, Patrick?
Well, we started, so we'll finish on that note.
And it was part of the middle as well. Well,
Yep.
look, you've been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you,
this
mate.
week.
So have you.
As always, I've enjoyed your company. Kieran, absolute pleasure. Do stay tuned because there is a fantastic show coming on straight after us. Don't go anywhere. But we will be back on Monday, 6:30. We'll see you then.
This is Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Tenna men.
Cage.
Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in